right, ready to roll?
Yeah, man, do it.
All right, what's that, bro? Oh, shit.
Every time.
Every fucking
Like
time.
clockwork.
I get too excited.
Like clockwork.
I didn't do my I didn't do my stretch.
In all seriousness, like I would love to see if there has been a time that we didn't have to run. Like the intro is always me correcting you, not saying the intro right.
Dude, what's funny is I made a TikTok and I just compiled all these videos I record myself because I'm like making announcements. And it's just like 20 clips of me just fucking up and just being like fucking freaking out. And I just put it all together.
So funny.
And it's actually pretty funny, man. But I think I'm pretty sure everybody that has to do stuff on camera fucks up like that. It was relatable to so many people. They're like, dude, all the time. And I'm like, real deal.
Yeah, it turns out you're a human being too, right?
Yeah, trust me. Yeah. There'd be something wrong if I could just speak perfectly to the camera every single time.
Well, I think there's so much of this that goes on behind the scenes that people just don't realize.
I get excited.
Yeah, dude.
I get too excited.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if too excited. Like
I get very excited.
Be excited.
And I just like, and sometimes my mouth moves a lot quicker than my.
Well,
like
I mean, you could be the other side of that and just be blah, 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 blah.
This wouldn't go nowhere. That's for sure.
I think you have to have that passion behind it.
Yeah, you do. I tell people that all the time whenever I do dialogue videos with them. I'll say like, I always grew up hearing that like the camera adds like 10 pounds or whatever, which I don't get what that even means. But it definitely will cut your energy in half though. So like if you're just talking like regular conversation, like this is probably how I would normally talk to you, but it sounds like really low. Like for this, it's okay because it's a podcast. But when I'm trying to get you to like tell me the story of your business or something, like I need you to almost be like uncomfortable. Like, hey, what's going on, guys? Like that's why YouTubers and stuff do that because it's, you know, the video video cuts your energy. Yeah. You have to be almost uncomfortably.
Yeah, I'm naturally pretty boisterous, so it works out.
It works out fine for you. Yeah, I think you're good to go.
Yeah. But all right, what's up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit podcast. Today, we have an old friend of mine, known him for quite some time, and, very special guest, as always, my man, Brian Benton. Welcome. And we also have my wonderful co-host and editor and all the things, Logan Hyder of Cinema 83 LLC. Give it up for him.
Thank you.
Slash. Yes, sir.
All the slashes.
So today we got a good one for you. You know, Brian and I go, I don't know, a couple years back.
Yeah.
We met through the barbershop up in Mount Juliet.
Yeah.
Someone connected us there and Brian does we'll get into what he does.
Finally got my haircut there recently.
Nice. Who'd you go to?
Corey.
Go, good old Corey.
Yeah. I don't fit in there at all, but
Corey.
Oh gosh.
No, you do.
But Corey, I do with Corey.
Well, Corey's like the guy.
Yeah. Everybody else in there is way too cool and hip.
And then Corey's just
I'm just like, hey.
Corey's just a good old boy.
He's got his kids and his wife.
Yeah. That's when we talk about shooting his old Dodge pickup truck.
Yeah.
His kids.
He's always just chilling. Everybody else, like Landon's just like, doing his thing. I love it though, man. It's good energy there.
It's a great vibe in there.
It is.
He's actually married to a girl that was in my class in high school, Jamie Williams, or her name used to be Williams. I'm sorry. Her name is Potter now, I'm sure.
Potter. Yeah, Jamie's really nice.
Her name used to be
You don't expect that vibe walking in off Nonaville Road.
Right.
Yeah.
Into that strip center.
Yeah.
And then you walk in, you're like, damn. Good, great energy in there.
They're crazy. They're crushing it.
Yeah.
Shout out to the boys at Iconic Culture Barbers in Mount Juliet.
Shaking up the whole vibe of a normal barbershop, the whole thing, and just putting it right in the middle of Mount Juliet.
Well, you know what's funny too? I mean, obviously I'm a Mount Juliet guy. There's so many hair places in Mount Juliet.
Right.
It's like every new business is like, I bet that's going to be a hair, like, sure enough.
Well, hair culture is huge, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, people pay a lot of money, like men pay a lot of money to get their hair, in check. And like, I go weekly.
Yeah.
But that was part of the deal with me and Landon. Like free cuts for life. And so I take advantage of that.
Are you still driving?
Yeah. Damn. That's just like honestly, it's kind of my day to get away and drive around and clear my head and make phone calls. So like, I just look at like Thursdays. It's like, all right, got to get to the barber shop. I'm going to make some calls. I'm going to stop by and see my boy Will at Nutrition Factory and like, do some other things that I don't get to do throughout the rest of the week. Yeah. So, and I enjoy it. But if I go more than a week without a haircut now,
well, especially with
I'm like, dude, I'm homeless.
Yeah.
I look homeless. Yeah. Like this was skin on the side last Thursday and it's already grown that much back. So
I've just recently, man, I've always been so bad about like didn't care with my hair and just, I've just slowly started growing it out and trying to do something. And I'm realizing like, it's effort, man.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going so many years of just not really caring.
But you realize like what it does for you, like just confidence wise, like even on a small scale, like makes you feel more confident. You feel good. If your hair's looking good, there's something to be said.
It all
about
matters. I mean, your clothes, all of it. I mean, if you feel whatever that is, though, right? And that's the beauty of it. Whatever makes you feel good. That's not one answer, right? I mean, there is something to that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but like I said, a lot of people are paying money for it. So barbershops are good business if you know what you're doing. And fortunately, they've been crushing it over there.
Well, and it's such a unique place, right? I mean, I mentioned there's so many places in Mount Juliet. There's only one place like that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Every other one is, you pretty much know what you're getting.
Yeah.
And like I said, the handful, I've been there I think 3 times now, and it's always hopping when I walk in.
Yeah.
Whatever day of the week, whatever time. It's going like.
Well, we just did a nice 5 minute.
Landon, there you go, buddy.
We just did a nice 5-minute ad read for him.
There you go.
No,
Landon.
it's awesome, and I invest in a lot of small businesses, so I'll probably pay attention more than just your everyday person.
That was my very first investment.
Yeah. I remember us talking about it.
And I just said,
that's so funny. Landon's like, well, shit, that worked out well for me. He's listening to this episode. He's like,
no, dude. I mean, it's just cool.
It's just love, yeah.
So many people, they just think of it's going to be so cool to have my name on a business card, my name on the sign. It takes a lot of shit to make a small business go around.
100%.
So when you see one in a very saturated field, in a market that kind of, salon in Mount Juliet, that was a
high barrier to entry.
Yeah, man, that was like putting yourself out there.
Yeah, and it's being fruitful.
I was talking about high-end steakhouses and some other things last night that we need in Mount Juliet, and it's like, we're ready for it.
Let's get a bourbon steak there.
Yeah.
About maybe 4 or 5 years ago now. It had been longer than that now. Damn, time flies. Anyways, there was a place in Mount Juliet that you probably remember if you're from Mount Juliet. It was called Woodfire.
Oh, yeah.
And so I worked there as a server while they were there for 3 months.
Yeah.
And that was their whole idea, was that Mount Juliet doesn't really have a place like that. And they were like, and especially on this side, because Providence, you got a bunch of restaurants, but on this side, you don't even have restaurants at all, much less a really fancy restaurant. But I think I don't know. I think there were several things that went wrong there. We don't have to go into all that because nobody knows what I'm talking about. But one of the things that's interesting, though, is I don't know. They thought at least that they had made a miscalculation on that side of town actually isn't ready for a really nice restaurant like that.
Well, I would probably agree with that side of town. I think you have to be somewhat closer to Providence, not necessarily in Providence.
And for you guys who don't know, we're talking about right next to Lebanon Road, like the Kroger Corner Pub. It's like right over there.
Yeah, or like out-of-state listeners are like, what the fuck
Yeah,
is
I mean,
going
you have the like any city, the north side of Mount Juliet is still kind of the sort of the old version of Mount Juliet.
Yeah.
And there's bits and pieces, and that's where Landon's place is, and then there's south side of the interstate, which is Providence. It's all new, heavy retail shopping. That's where all the traffic is, and proximity, right? It's right off the interstate.
Right. Yeah.
And in any city, Murfreesboro, same way. Like, you have a lot of things, but a lot of it's going to be right there off
concentrated.
24.
Yeah.
But it's coming, man. Like, I own 2 commercial buildings on that end of town, and it's slowly. Like, you're just starting to see things pop in.
Yeah.
Just like landing spot, right? That becomes a domino effect. Like, oh, shit, that took off. So then the next guy's not quite as leery to start his business on that side of town.
Yeah.
With that kind of like vibe too.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, maybe if that worked, then my kind of out of the box creative thing could work on this side too.
Meanwhile, what's crazy, Lebanon Road and Mount Juliet Road, the traffic numbers, the amount of traffic, I forget the numbers now, it'll blow you away.
It's pretty insane.
So you see those numbers, and you're like, every business should be killing it on this side of town. Right. But it's a weird dynamic on that end of town.
It's interesting too. You're talking about the domino effect. It's like, because we're sitting here talking about Landon, we're joking around like just a big ad read for Landon. But when you think about it from that perspective, it's like the domino effect that a successful, again, like kind of out of the box creative business like that, it's like could have on somebody else in the area who's thinking about, something like that would never work on this. Oh, it did work. So now I'm going to do it. Like, Landon's business has such a ripple effect on the businesses around him and the area and the community in general. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah, but before we get you started, I did want to say same thing. You talk about being on a different part of town. Like, I'm not in the middle of Murfreesboro.
Yeah.
I'm on the outskirts, but I got in here and there's like a lot of opportunity out here. And they're building, man.
There's new construction all around you. That's not accidental.
They're putting a veterinary hospital right here.
Yeah.
I've already been into contact with their owner. Like, we're going to try to work out a program with them to get their techs in here. That's like 16 clients for group training stuff, and they're opening up Buc-ee's off this fucking exit, which I'm stoked about because I'm be getting brisket once a week.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm gonna be filling up because I just like to feel there. But they're opening up Buc-ee's, like it's growing, you know? And so I think I got into the right time on this part of town. Plus, it's easy to get to. You just get off the interstate, boom, we're like half a mile off of it.
Well, success, investing, any of this stuff, dude, is like when you have the gumption and the foresight to get in before everyone else is.
Yeah.
That's where the money is.
Yep.
Like it's easy to go to the Gulch now, but you're going to pay top dollar. You're going to struggle to make it because you're coming in at pinnacle, right? Everyone bought Bitcoin when it was trading at 40 grand.
Don't Joe have fucking flashbacks?
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when you should be buying Bitcoin is right now.
Right.
Which I still do.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks it's crazy. I'm like, well, that's how investing works. Like you buy it when it's
low.
down,
Same
when
thing
it's
with real
crashing.
estate.
Buy low, baby.
And then you just have to be willing to hang on, man.
Yep.
Well, even I was even thinking about like I used to have some very, very small Robinhood account, which is, and we don't get to Robinhood either, relax. But but I'm just saying that I was telling him before, I think that it is an interesting thing because it allows you to kind of get in on investing. Like in my head when I was growing up, at least, it's like, how would I even do that? So, log onto an app. I think that the idea itself is pretty cool. But anyways, my point being is I was thinking like maybe I'll, I took my stuff out a little while ago and I was like, I'm going to maybe buy back in. I was like, yeah, but he's doing so bad. And then I was like, well, that's probably why I should.
You have to fight, like everything in you is saying,
don't do it.
Jump ship, jump ship. That's when you should be buying.
Right.
Yeah. But you have to be willing. People don't have the patience.
Yep.
Because investing really is about, it's a marathon, not a sprint, that whole saying. Like, you've got to be willing to do things. You're doing it right now. You've got to be willing to put in all the work now and get paid later.
Yep.
And that's hard as shit.
It is.
So hard.
It is.
And there's some days you're like, what the fuck am I doing?
Trust me, dude. There's days that I'll be straight up. There's days it can be discouraging as fuck. You're just like, oh, you just look at the numbers. You got to the first of the month comes around pretty fast, and you're like, all right, I got to go write this check. And, I got to do this. But then things just start to come. If you focus on the right thing and you're fucking there for it and you just keep trying. And it's very simple. Just keep trying. My niece wrote this thing on Veterans Day, like about her hero, and talked about me. And the last sentence said, "And I hope my uncle keeps trying." And like, dude, it put me in tears. And like, dude, I think about that, and I'm like, I just got to keep trying.
Well, think about it. You're in fitness, man. Like, you don't get overweight overnight, right? And you don't get in shape overnight. Like you're gonna start, training certain guys that may be way overweight.
Yeah.
They're not going to work out for a week and then be like, I'm done. I'm good. Like the payoff is going to come
It's a marathon, not a sprint. Same
way
thing with
down here, dude. And it's hard, man. Go research any big name, any industry that made it and see how easy their path was.
Yeah. Pretty much never.
Never, man. Never.
Pretty much, no, never.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the thing. When I was doing things out of my house, it was easy.
Yeah.
This made it tough. This made the journey this made it relentless pursuit.
You probably would have never gotten here in your house.
No, that's why I had to do this.
And just think how much further you will go now.
Exactly, man. But, man, we got to still introduce you. Yeah, that's the thing. This is me and Brian talking over beers in Mount Juliet. So tell us about you, Brian. So really just kind of give us a brief talk, and we'll get more into like what you do for work or whatever down the road. But just kind of say, hey, this is what I do, and then get into your story. Like we want the guests to know you. Share what you wanted to share, but go back to your childhood, like talk about your upbringing and kind of the path and what led you to where you're at now. Yeah,
I mean, kind of where I am now. Married, 2 kids. We own a few small businesses, but money and mindset is really what my wife and I both do. I mean, that comes in the form of investing, coaching, really all positive things in relation to money. And I've always had an attachment to money, right? But it was always a kind of a unhealthy relationship with money.
Like that was the priority.
Yeah, and I think because growing up, I mean, it was a tough childhood, broken family, volatile household, a lot of just, I say unstable, really more so like unhealthy.
Yeah.
Right? We always had a roof over our head and always had food in our belly.
Where was this at?
Memphis. So I grew up inner city Memphis. But it was more like, we were always in a, less than desirable neighborhood.
Of course.
So tough school environment, tough neighborhood environment, lots of volatility in our house. But there was always this like entrepreneurial thing in me. I just never had mentors or verbiage or how to articulate what I was feeling.
Yeah.
And in the earlier years, I was using that for, not the right things, we'll just call it. And, just growing up, we moved from Memphis to Jackson, Tennessee the year I started my junior year of high school. And culture shock, dude. I went from inner city Memphis to living out in the country.
Jackson's pretty country.
Yeah, and it was, I didn't fit anywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I had no identity, and it was culture shock. It was really weird. I mean, coming from an all black school to going to this melting pot of a high school in Jackson, living out in the country. I mean, riding 4-wheelers for the first time, seeing a wild turkey for the first time. And
what did you like more, the inner city or that?
Definitely that, but like it's a weird. Like I've grown to where it's why I like Mount Juliet. It's country, just country enough, but still access to all the things.
Yeah.
So I'm not a guy that ever wants to live like inner city, right? I like living in the Gulch or something like that.
Screw that.
But I don't want to live, 2 hours out.
Yeah.
Isolated on 40 acres either. Now I love to go there for the weekend. But I like that in between where you just get enough flavor of both things that are working kind of in perfect harmony with one another.
Middle Tennessee is really cool in that way.
It really is, dude. Like you can I used to do a lot of wildlife photography, right? What's cool about Middle Tennessee is like you can be off the beaten path pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But you can have access to whatever you need pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I think that's super cool. Middle Tennessee aesthetically is amazing.
I love it.
Like 100%. so good. But so I graduated high. So I was under the radar honor student in school. It wasn't cool to be an honor student where I went to school.
Yeah.
So that was always under the radar, but school never held my interest very well because now looking back, I know why. Like I don't necessarily subscribe to the traditional school system.
Yeah.
It's just teaching you very in the box things, and I'm a very out of the box guy.
You're among friends on that one.
Yeah, and again, I didn't know how to articulate that then. So I went to 1 year at UT Martin, drank too much. I didn't have anybody making me go to class. Got put on academic probation. I never went back.
Yeah.
Felt horrible then. It was embarrassing. I know my parents were probably feeling, some kind of way, as they should.
Yeah.
But what I didn't know, man, is like I was honoring my wiring. I bought a pet store 2 years later.
Really? Just ran this?
I was a merchandising manager at PetSmart in Jackson and knew I wanted to own a business. I really liked working with animals and had an opportunity to show up walk through the door one day, told me about a pet store. These people were retiring. And within a few weeks, I was in that store negotiating, walked into a bank, borrowed 100% of the money needed at 21. No backing,
So when you say that because I'm financial terms illiterate, so 100% of it, you mean that you had none of the money to put
I had
down?
no money. I had nothing, man.
Gotcha. So the bank.
I was a dude, right?
I
went to a year of college, had to go back and live home for a couple of years. I had just gotten married and moved out. I was a merchandising manager at PetSmart. I mean, I couldn't tell you what I was making, $15 an hour maybe back then. But again, I had enough, just something in me that I was able to go and articulate in a way to this bank that they gave a 21-year-old. It wasn't a ton of money. I think it was 40, 50 grand, but it was still
that's a ton of money.
40, 50 grand 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I look back on it now and I'm like,
it's crazy.
That's crazy. That just would not. And I don't mean like my mom signed for me or I knew this dude that had connections. I just go strolling into a local bank.
You're like, fuck it, I'm gonna give it a shot.
Pretty much. And it's like I had notes on a dinner napkin kind of thing. Like I didn't go in with some presentation. I just sold myself, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was kind of off to the races there, right? I mean, I think that sort of solidified what I had been feeling, and just I've chased entrepreneurship ever since. Now I did go on, I got divorced, that business, I had to get rid of that business, went back to Memphis, and really kind of in and out of corporate life for the next 20 years while still owning a few other small businesses, party rental company, flooring company, some other things.
Yeah.
But, I went back to what you're supposed to do, get the traditional job, climb the ladder, get the title, get the salary, And every time I would do that, something would happen where I'm like, this just isn't right.
Yeah.
So in 2010, I leave a really good job, everything behind in Memphis, on a whim, moved to Florida. I've got a former colleague of mine, used to be a sales rep that called on my account. He had moved down, started his own thing in the floor covering world, tile and stone. I was like, hell, I'll go.
Yeah.
And jumped down there. It was a disaster. Funnest year of my adult life.
You were there, you're like, shit.
I had an amazing time, but his thing didn't work out. We knew it right away. And I just kind of said, the hell with it. And
We're here already?
I lived off my savings. I didn't work for a year.
Yeah.
I just had fun. Like we lived on the water back off the intercoastal. I fished a couple nights a week. Now my best friend at the time, he was a pilot for one of the commercial airlines, I forget, Express Jets. So he was my roommate. And then now a 10-year good friend of mine, I met. So the three of us were just like the three amigos. Now both of them had full-time jobs.
Yeah.
I
was just kicking it, man.
We kind of been all over the place. So you were like, dude,
exactly.
I just need to fucking.
Yeah. I was snorkeling.
Reset.
We were fishing, partying. I mean, just having a big time. And of course, that has a shelf life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, that shelf life was about 14 months.
Yeah.
Some people never, for some reason, it doesn't have a shelf life for some people. They got stuck in that.
Well, and I think I knew the whole time.
That it was temporary.
Yeah.
I knew the whole time. And I just still didn't. It's like I still was struggling with direction.
Yeah.
And what it came down to is like I had no one like pushing, like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's like everyone was just cool with what I was doing, so I was just doing it.
They're like, yeah, hell yeah, just keep riding the wave, bro.
Yeah, and it's like, it was no one's responsibility, right? It was my own.
Well, it's kind of like when I went to Southeast Asia for, I told you about that a while back, for like 4 months, and I was just with a backpack. I don't know. I just needed a reset. I went through was in the military, started school right away, went through a bad breakup. I was like, I just need to fucking and the opportunity arose from a good friend of mine, but I just jumped on it. I was like, dude, let's just not give a shit for like a little while. Went out there, backpacked around, and I was living day to day.
Yeah.
But there was people that were just like, that do that for years and years, and they just kind of like flow with the wind, which, to me personally, I don't know. I'm not going to say you got to grow up because I hate that term. Like I'll never fucking grow up, I'll take on more responsibility, like a family and like business and all that stuff. Cause I want to succeed. I want to make something of myself.
You're better. You have family coming, brother.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I got a little girl on the way, and it's so fucking cool. It's like such a dream come true. But like that time, just kind of going day by day, had a shelf life for me.
Yep.
For some reason, some people don't do that. And I don't know. I don't really understand that mindset, and nothing against them.
Yeah.
But me, I'm like, dude, all right. I got to have that time, but like, let's graduate to something else. Like, let's do some big things. Yeah. And I don't know.
I think that's the important part of it. I mean, is graduating to the next thing.
Yeah.
Now, I think a lot of people should, like, being an adult, dude, way overrated.
Yeah.
Like, way overrated. It's hard, man. It's hard. It's a drag a lot of the time. But, like, I think people should just kind of have that fuck it period.
Yeah, well,
whatever that looks like. And the older you get in family and career, that becomes a lot more difficult to do, obviously.
Yeah.
Like no one's saying, hey, man, leave your family. Like no one's saying that. But like, I think looking back now, like I love that I had that year.
Yep, same.
Yeah, like it was a fun year, dude. It really, I mean, there's so many great memories. I got 2 really great friendships out of it that are, still friendships today.
Well, how valuable is that? I mean,
huge.
That alone.
Huge, man.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, and then like we still go back down to that area of Florida, a time or 2 a year, and it's there's like this thing there that like, man, I can remember.
It's our spot.
That night the boat broke down. Right here, and I mean, there's just those
what
fun
part of
things.
Florida?
Fort Walton Beach. So we ran like kind of Destin, Fort Walton Beach, Pensacola.
Cool.
Kind of all.
I go down there a lot. So. Yeah.
I mean, I think that the whole reset thing I think is a great idea. And earlier when I was telling you, I kind of took a step back and I've mostly just been working on this. That was purposeful. Like I got to a point probably in the spring where I was just super burned out. Like I've been doing this for 4 years. I've had some success, but not like, not what I wanted it to be, still struggling. And after a while, dude, you get your teeth kicked in over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I don't have 10, 20 years of like whatever, confidence built up, right? So whenever I go into the business world, and at first I'm like gung-ho, and then after the first few things happen, you're still gung-ho, and then after the first few dozen things happen, you're still a little bit less gung-ho. And so I kind of got to the point like this spring where I was burned out, dude. I was burned out. And then things started going really well, which is great because it put some gas in my tank and I was able to keep going because I actually had some reward coming in, which was great. And then, but my birthday is October 9th, so that first week of October, I had something else happen. Something that doesn't really matter, but it just kind of triggered those feelings of being like, man, I need a break. And I can't just take a vacation. So like I literally was like from now to the end of the year, and I think I'm probably going to do this every year from now moving forward. I was like, for the next 12 weeks, I'm going to work. I'm going to purposely take a couple days off where I tell myself I am not working today. Do whatever you want, but you're not working, right? And so I'm literally right in the middle of that. And the metaphor or the way that I described it to Joe was like, I feel like I've been climbing this mountain with my business for years at this point. And I finally got to like a stable spot, and my pictured the mountain in my head, right? There's like that tent you get to on a big long mountain climb where you come off to the side and you rest for the night, and then I'm like, bro, I'm at a checkpoint. I can't just take 12 weeks off, but like I need to just chill, get a drink, relax,
It's important, dude.
I think it's important.
It's important.
I think it's important.
We've
By the way,
gotten our
we're right
teeth.
at 30, so you got about a minute. Keep going, though.
We've gotten our teeth kicked in a lot this year. I mean, it's been a hard year with the market conditions and all the things. And, it's taking those breaks is what helped you get through. Because it's not the last time you're going to get your teeth kicked in.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can just be humming right along, and then this thing hits you. And I think the more rested and level-headed and all 100%. That you are, the better chances you have of motoring through. And you're going to deal with it too, right? While you're growing this business, like you're going to have these really high highs, and then something's going to kick you in the nuts.
Yep. Right.
And it's like, if you're not in the right place, that nut kick can kill you.
Yeah.
Or it can just be, damn, that hurt.
Right.
Bro.
Pause.
Just a few days for Thanksgiving, I was such a retard. Yeah. It's like Sunday or Monday morning, I woke up like, damn, I actually want to work. I haven't felt that way in freaking weeks, months. Feels like.
People don't check in with themselves, man.
Yeah. Brian, go ahead and hit us with a little ad read. Tell us what you got.
Yeah, Brian Benton here with the Benton Group, local Tennessee business. We essentially, we're looking for dollars and deals, right? So we raise private capital. So we take your capital, and then I find places to basically park that capital. For us, primarily, that's real estate and small businesses. And with that too, if you have an asset, a small business that you're needing capital infusion, maybe you're needing to sell, that's our game as well. So, I mean, deals and dollars, right? If you've got capital, you're looking to get out there working hard for you. That's something we do. And then from the small business standpoint, we are launching Hubb Records. Hubb Records will be a small vintage albums, vintage concert tees, that sort of thing. We would love to have you out, 2416 North Mount Juliet Road.
This episode is also brought to you by Jan Adams with Benchmark Realty. She's my wonderful mother, and she has 30 years experience in the real estate industry, and it allows her to fulfill her dream of service to others, and it brings her joy to do so by helping them sell their houses and helping people find their homes. Nashville real estate, according to her, is still in high demand. Inventory is needed, and it is a good time to sell. This area is also one of the top areas for relocation in the country. Don't fall in the trap of renting America. That's what investors want you to do. Buy your own home, own your own home. It's going to benefit you in the long run, and you'll be much happier doing so other than forking out money to somebody else. So check out Jan. Call or text her at 615-969-5577 or email her at jansellstnhomes@gmail.com. I want to do an energy drink eventually, and because I think it'd just be cool to have like a black textured can with the logo wrapped around it.
Well, speaking of just marketing genius, Liquid Death.
Oh yeah,
you seen those cans?
I love it.
They kill it.
Just water, plastic, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. Like
they just kill it.
But like that can, those graphics, that logo.
And their idea with like trying to get people away from the microplastics and like eliminate that waste as well.
Well, they have a bunch of. I saw the other day like randomly somewhere that like a bunch of their merch. And it's like very selectively created. You can tell the merch, and you're thinking like. That's what I was thinking. I was like,
super metal.
They're fucking brilliant. But they're brilliant because it's like Dasani doesn't have fucking merch.
Yeah.
You ever see Dasani t-shirts?
Yeah.
Because it's a fucking blue water bottle with a Dasani thing on it versus
I don't drink Dasani.
this big old, flaming.
No, I think it's fake water.
This big old flaming skull and stuff, and like
lab grown water.
Like for them to realize that they had that aesthetic that they could just like sell like merch.
No,
it's so smart.
Pretty sweet. Sweet. Yeah,
it really is.
It's like the Red Bull of water, kind of.
It's funny too because it looks like a Miller Lite can. When you, I
know. I was like, dude, I'm gonna get pulled over.
I finally asked someone the other day in the store. I'm like, hey, what is this shit?
Yeah.
She's like, it's just water. I'm like, nah, it's got to be. And then I actually did a little research. I'm like, brilliant. Yeah. Man, that's brilliant.
Really cool.
Because if the graphics and like if it wasn't cool like it is, no one would care.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even the name, Liquid Death, like it's just so extreme and
you can't help but to be like.
But it makes sense too.
Yeah.
It's like, you're gonna kill your thirst. Like,
yeah.
I mean, yeah. Really,
it's basically super. Like I would say, like it's got that metal, that black metal, death metal aesthetic. Like
so,
it's
Liquid
just,
Death, reach out to you boys because we need a sponsorship.
Come
on, please.
No, and again, goes back to like with small businesses, man. It's so unique and cool, dude. You can't help but to get behind that.
You're a business nerd. Dude.
I love it.
You're a business nerd.
That's so cool because
I do the same thing.
If they just had like a fill in the blank logo and like didn't put all that much energy or like to me that is the brand.
Yeah,
100%.
Is the graphic, is 100%. The logo. Like the story's awesome, right? But it's like that's killer.
Yeah, it goes a long freaking way.
Yeah.
Be out with my girlfriend or something and just like, God, look at the way they did that. She's like, what you even, I don't even see what you see right there with that. And I'm like, it's just brilliant the way that they package that and the way that, okay, I'm sorry, I'll shut up.
No, dude.
Like,
I like some creativity.
Matters. Yeah. It matters. Like people will put so much effort in this.
It's not as cool as the RP logo.
Well, I mean, the bar's pretty high there.
They're gonna be like, fuck you.
So Brian.
I'm gonna tag them in a clip that says that. And they're gonna be like, what the hell? But maybe we'll collab. Anyways.
Yeah, so I mean, kind of pick up where we were, dude.
From Florida.
Yeah, so I ended up. Both of my buddies were from Arkansas for two different reasons. They were moving back to Arkansas. I had nothing going down in Florida, so I actually made a phone call and went back to work for the company I'd left in Arkansas versus Memphis, right back in the corporate world again. So I kind of bounced around, did that, and kind of long story short, the next 10 to 15 years, I still knew I wanted more, something different.
Yeah.
And started pursuing, for whatever reason, all my research into wealth, there was always that real estate component. No matter who it was I was researching, it was real estate. So I started just doing all the things, man, the books, the classes, the meetups, all the things. I just kind of engulfed myself in real estate investing, and it really took hold. Yeah. Moved to Nashville at eight years ago, something like that. And like from the moment I landed in Nashville, there's so much growth and so much happening. I'm like, well, here it is. Like it's on. So the company that brought me here, long hours. I was still in that corporate world, but I instantly started sinking my teeth in and meeting the right people. And, and then, kind of the rest was history. And about 2 years ago, we left. Rachel left her corporate life behind.
She was a professor, right?
Well, that was part-time. So she was in corporate sales. Okay. She was a GM with Verizon, wanted a change. That's how we met. She came in to interview as an outside sales rep at the company I ran.
I remember you telling me this.
An amazing first introduction.
Nice.
A 3-hour-long interview. and rest is history there as well. But she left corporate life behind early 2020. And then I left corporate life behind a year later. And now we're just all over the place, man.
Yeah, I think you were still with that company when we met.
Oh, yeah.
But you were on the way out. You're like, that's what I'm trying to do.
How did you two meet, by the way?
Mutual friend, I think kind of tied to Land & Shop. A mutual friend, one of my former sales reps who recently took my position as GM of that company. So...
I'll tell you what, and so I was trying to get involved with him with the real estate stuff, and he had me making some cold calls, and I was talking to people about foreclosures and stuff. I was learning this shit, because I wanted to get into it. And I'll never forget, man, we met one time, and I was talking about doing that and RP and getting ready to get in the ring and fight, like up on the stage and this, and this. And you're like, Joe, like, I'm the same way, but... You said something along the lines of, but focus on that one thing, man. Like, don't take too much on. And like, I've always done that. And that's like kind of where I
have to remind myself constantly.
But coming into this, I was like, I go back to that. I'm like, man, Brian knows what he's talking about, and I appreciate that advice. And that's what I kind of did. I burned all the ships, and I just was like, I want this to be my only priority right now.
The key thing, if you look at your whole thing like a spider, like have your nucleus, right? The body of the spider.
Yeah.
Relentless
Make
pursuit.
Sure you're talking to that mic for me.
Relentless pursuit. And then have all the legs.
Well, now we got the
But they're all connected, right? And
that's what I'm trying to do with it.
When you're not careful, and what I had been doing and what you were doing is all legs, no body.
Yeah.
So is this thing and that thing, but none of that was connected.
They're all separate. Yeah, and that's the cool thing. That now we got like Pursuit, they got the apparel. That's what it started. But now we got the training aspect, the online thing coming, Relentless Recovery, the podcast, and there's like all these branches coming off of that. And I just like, that's the goal for me now, is to keep everything connected to this.
And it's just make sure like don't get too many legs.
Yeah, true.
Because the body's going to get lost. So you have to make sure that stays intact at all times.
Yeah.
And the cool thing with the legs is like if two of the legs are underperforming, you still got these other legs to hold everything up, and you can give them focus and or cut those legs off, right?
Or eventually bring in the people that you like, hey, like I need you to run this leg.
Or just like he and I were talking when you started the podcast. There's so many things that we can do, but we don't need to do them.
Yeah.
Like let Slash do his thing.
Yeah.
Quit trying to do it all. That way you can just do this.
Exactly.
Instead of running the board and all the things, like you get to just be fully engaged in this.
Yeah.
And like there's real value to that with so many things, man. And it's usually money or ego that keeps us from doing that, or a combination of the two. And you just have to figure both of those things out.
Oh yeah.
Like ego's good, man. Ego's there to protect us, but it also kicks our ass too.
Yeah. You got to have that balance. I think it's necessary, especially in entrepreneurship. You can't just eliminate your ego. You have to have some form.
Well, ego's why Relentless Pursuit is here.
Yeah.
So it's not like all ego is bad. I think a lot of times people just...
The difference in having the right amount of ego as opposed to being egotistical.
It's balance, baby.
It's a different thing.
I always talk about balance.
It is. It's important.
It always comes back to balance.
Super important, man. It really is.
Because you have to believe in yourself enough to think that the world will care about your message.
Exactly. So that's what hard for me, because like
that's ego on some level.
Because sometimes I'm just like, I don't know. It's hard for me to like just put myself like, oh, people are going to listen to what I have to say. Like sometimes I'm like, why the fuck do people? I don't know. It's
they call it the imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
we all deal with it. Just so you know, you have those moments where it's like, well, who the hell am I?
Yeah.
Or I don't know that much, or I don't deserve it, or look where I came from, or
I think
whatever.
That keeps you humble a little bit, though.
Yeah, I think again balance.
Yeah.
I think it's important to have some of that, but all of this doesn't happen by accident.
Exactly.
Like this didn't just all come together from dumb luck.
Yeah, I was gonna say dumb luck.
So obviously people care. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And Rachel and I have this discussion a lot. Like she's struggling a little bit with that currently with launching her coaching business. And I'm like, there has been so much feedback already before it's even launched that like clearly people give a shit about what you have to say.
Yeah, I'm stoked to get her on it.
And clearly you're you'll feel it. Like she's super passionate, and she's very heart-centric, man. She's probably the nicest, most caring human being I've ever met. Now that works against her at times because, she's hurt easy. Like if someone takes advantage or abuses something or whatever, because she's so heart-centric.
I can feel that. I'm very similar.
My girlfriend's like that.
Yeah,
very much.
It's amazing though, and like we balance each other well because she helps reel me in and like being in check with my emotions and how I'm speaking to someone and how I may be coming across and all of those things. So it's awesome. I mean, but she's struggling with it, and I struggle with it at times. Like
all have their struggles,
and it's like, dude, like who gives a shit? If you don't want to hear it, don't hear it.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you there is enough people out there that have an open ear that are going to welcome whatever the message may be.
Exactly.
So I say if you touch one or two people, dude, it's worth the while.
That's all that matters. I remind myself
here.
of that all the
time.
time.
I'm here with you, right? Like, so it mattered to me.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
people want to be here.
We've seen, sometimes we talk about, because we get some crazy comments. Sometimes we talk about that sometimes. But really, we've gotten such good feedback over the last, since August. August 1st is literally when we launched it. And it's been nothing but
random places I go.
And you're going to get naysayers.
That's good.
Yeah.
Period.
It's getting 100%. Attention.
Like, and I used to always joke. So I've been a hustler my whole life. So I've bought and sold things my whole life. I just can't get away from it.
Yeah.
It's why the antique and record store are coming. It's what I do in real estate, right? But once
you'll never run out of things to buy and sell.
So like when somebody puts a shitty comment on a post or something on Facebook, let's say, I'll respond and say, hey man, thanks for the algorithm. It bumps my ad right back to the top.
Thanks for watching.
And you know, for them, it's just tearing them up.
They're like, I did not upset this person.
Yes. And it's just, but that's a mindset thing.
Yeah.
Now I could just as easy, that could have ruined my day.
True.
Yeah. And sometimes that's hard because it still sucks when no one wants to hear anything negative about themselves.
It's hard to separate that because like in your mind you think that's a person, like that's a real person somewhere that really like took the time to write something like that. Like maybe they really feel that way. If they really feel that way, maybe there is something to it. But you got to remember that like for one thing, most of the time it's like a little egg account with no profile picture or whatever. It's like, so like are they a real person?
Well,
like,
a lot of times too, it's just projection.
Self-projection.
Oh, it's
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Hurt people, baby. That's all. If you took the time to write something hateful, you care on some kind of level. And like you said, what we started responding to when shit like that happens, I'll just say, thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Yep.
Appreciate it. You got me another view and a comment. Thanks.
And
look at that.
some people like, it's this weird psychological thing. They may actually not feel that way. They just
want a response.
That, or they can't be vulnerable enough to say, hey man, I'm going through this thing. So instead it's easier just to lash out and say something shitty.
That makes sense.
Like,
Definitely does.
But to your point, thanks for watching. Because they're watching, and I guarantee you that same person's going to watch another episode.
All the shit. Yeah. For sure.
Guarantee.
And they're just sitting there.
They don't just leave a shitty comment and go away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just part of it. We had a crazy person at one of our short-term rentals recently. And it was a hard couple of days for Rachel. I mean, there was a lot involved. Authorities were involved. I mean, it was a whole thing. But I told her the same thing. Like, prior to that person, dozens and dozens of people had an amazing experience. She's gotten to meet several of them.
Yeah.
All this great feedback, all these things. It's like, if you do anything enough, you're going to have some degree of asshole, crazy person.
Right. It's a numbers
negative
problem.
It is.
It's a numbers problem.
It just is what it is. For us to think it's just going to be all sunshine and roses.
That's ego.
Right?
Well, we were talking about it too before, and I was saying that that I feel like if you you're going to attract. I feel like the stronger that you stand for the things you believe in, that you will naturally attract people who who believe something different, right? Yeah. So like if you stand for like honesty and like ethical business practices, and like whenever you go to buy and sell something, and you execute a sale in good faith, and you're negotiating with somebody who doesn't, and they're angry with you that you executed something in good faith, it's like, well, if I make an enemy out of you because you're a person who goes into a deal with bad faith, then that's fine. Yeah. Right. So you're just by standing for things you believe, you're naturally going to put yourself at a contrast to people who don't agree with you. So it's going to happen.
Well, I mean, it's a big problem in America right now. Like, we can have differing opinions. We can disagree. We can do all those things, but we don't have to be enemies because of it.
Right.
Like, and everyone's making everything so extreme, man. Yeah. It's like, well, if we all agree that we like freedoms and we like, to have the, autonomy to think away, be away, act away, well, then shouldn't we also over here be okay if you go about that differently than I do? But instead, like, everyone wants to tell each other how you have to feel about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, that's that's controlling.
Yes.
Like, the very thing you're supposedly against is what you're doing for your thing.
There's some things I don't necessarily agree. There's actually a lot of things I don't agree with.
Yes.
But, honestly, those opinions, I mean, we talk about a lot on here, but really like some of those deeper opinions, I just share for like the people close to me, like those, like maybe you and you guys and like my family and like the guys in my tribe and shit. That's like, why do I feel the need to go out there and post it for like all this hate for all these people that are essentially strangers that I'm friends with on Facebook for some reason, and just to like get the pot stirred more? Like, I don't agree with that, but guess what? I just don't have to fucking interact with it or deal with it. Like, I can keep living my life. You do you, just let's keep a distance. But people are like, oh my God, you don't agree with me? Let's fucking cancel you now.
Rachel's description on that is your pain body needs to feed. So it's kind of like a leech, right? People need more negative energy to feed that thing inside them.
Yeah.
So the more they don't get it, the louder they become.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like that whole misery loves company thing. And so when you hit them with knowledge or facts or positivity or, hey man, I don't feel that way or I don't support that, it's crushing to them because that thing didn't get to feed. So now they're that much more like aggressive.
Vitriolic.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And a lot of, and you know, that can all stem from traumas and the lack of like internal growth.
Yeah, man.
And stuff like that. Like that's seems typically what it comes down to.
People don't grow. I've noticed, like, again, I just watch people, watch business, watch all these things. And the one thing I keep seeing is like the moment someone doesn't have to learn, they don't anymore at all.
Yeah.
Whether that's, you know, a topic or, you know, business or investing or whatever, self-reflection, how to be healthy, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like people just shove all this shit content in their face all day, but no substance.
Exactly.
And every time I start digging in with someone, I'm like, who's around you and what content are you taking in? And usually it's all shit.
Yeah.
Just all the things, all your normal things. And it's like, well, what's the last book you read? Are you in any kind of organization? Do you have a cause? Do you have what are you learning? I don't care if it's crochet.
What's your purpose?
Like, learn, like feed your brain something other than all the bullshit that's out there. And we live in an age now where it's just everywhere, right? There's just shit content everywhere. And that's been the thing I found, dude, is like people do not spend any time feeding whether it's their soul, their brain, whatever. And it's like, start there.
They just drown it out with dumb shit.
Yeah,
I mean, that's all I thought TikTok was for the longest time.
Yeah.
That's why it took me so long.
And it still can be, right?
It can.
It can go down this road or this road.
Sometimes they're just tools and it's how you use it, right?
Yeah, but I'm like, all right, I'm just going to post valuable clips on there for people. And like, I'm going to talk about like trauma, like, like from the wreck of my the anniversary of my accident and stuff, like just things that maybe people can relate to. And, Lydia, because Lydia used to be on there and I'm like, oh, you're on TikTok, and I thought she was just taking in bullshit. But then no, she's like always sending me stuff. She gains so much knowledge for like being a new mom. Yeah. Because there's just all this stuff about like pregnancy and like all these things. And she actually gets a lot of very valuable shit from there. So there is some to it, but
it's like any tool, man. Any tool can be used for good or bad, right?
Yeah.
A gun could kill people or you can go hunt and feed your family. Same tool, just how it's being used. It's not the tool. It's not the issue isn't with the tool. It's how the tool is being used.
Yeah.
Words, same way. TikTok, I mean, whatever the thing is, it's like, well, what am I trying to get done with this tool is what matters.
Exactly.
I was the same way with TikTok, dude. I thought it was just, it was all teenagers doing a dance. Like,
same. Like, or just dudes just like with strong jawlines, just like.
But the reality is like,
with the little cross earring.
Real talk. Real talk right now.
Real talk.
Should be busting, dog.
To your point though, those kind of kids literally like they'll blow up on there. It's nuts. It's like who is watching your shit enough to make you think?
What we all have to remember, like there's no sustainability to that.
No.
There's no real value there. No one's a better person from that. And in 3 years, 2 years, 2 days, whatever it is, no one cares.
Well, yeah.
And then what is like that person's going to have a major low.
I was talking to Lydia about that. There was some guy on our plane. We came back from New York a couple months ago. And he just gave me that TikTok dude. He had that look, he's like in a white beater, like just that tattoo style and stuff. Just real pretty boy, you know.
You wouldn't get it, bro.
But like Lydia's like, I swear
you wouldn't get it, bro.
Yeah, I know, I wouldn't get it. I'm just
Joe, just sit up there with your peanuts and just be quiet. You don't know him.
Loser. He's
making a TikTok back there right now. Leave him alone.
But no, she like, I guess some girl she's seen had him in her music video or whatever. But this guy's like, he does that. Yeah. He's got like 19 million followers.
Sure.
Like he's huge.
Yeah.
Is that me?
You bastard.
Wow.
He even made a point to say he turns off all his alarms and everything. This is probably 3 episodes in a row this has happened.
Man.
Oh, I did it on the one phone. Oh, okay. Jesus. I'm a scumbag.
I like it. You just slip in that you have 2 phones.
Yeah, no, he does that a lot.
I didn't do it on both phones.
No big deal. I'm not that big of a deal.
My iPhone 14 regular is what
you guys would. You wouldn't get it. You probably just did it on your one phone.
You and your one phones. Probably got a shitty carrier. No, but
one thing real quick I was going to say about what you were saying about people stop learning as soon as they have to, and you were saying like they do it for anything. You said even topics, and I like real quick was thinking like trying to think about an example, but that's actually exactly true too, because that's one of the reasons why headlines are such a problem right now, because like you have people that they want to know about a topic, let's say, and so they research the topic and the first headline they see is like, oh, okay, cool. So now I kind of get it. And now I'm just going to go back and have that conversation I was just about to have. It's like, yeah, you read that, and today you don't know who wrote the headline, what their motivation is.
Well, the problem there too
what
is
they're
like
leaving
people
out.
just read the headline.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying. To your point, they stop learning as soon as they can, right?
Yeah.
So if I know nothing about, let's say Elon Musk buying Twitter, if I know nothing about it, and so I go, okay, well, I'm going to go learn about it. So now I'm willing to learn. So then I research it, and the first article says, Elon Musk has done this, that, and the other. And let's say it's from a particularly, certain leading organization that doesn't like him, right? Well, at that point, I've now crossed the thresholds. Like, I've learned enough and I'm good. So now I pretty much know what the deal is, right? Obviously, I don't.
Yep.
But to your point, as soon as I can stop learning, I'm like, okay, I pretty much get it. And then you walk away and it's like you go talk to somebody that actually knows about it. And you're like, wait, so you kind of just like stopped looking this up as soon as you could.
Yeah, it's like it's like,
and then rinse and repeat that for any topic.
It's like the whole picture. Are you looking at the whole picture? Jeff Bezos, right? I know a guy that just loves to rip the rich, right? And he loves to say all the things
real popular,
they should be doing. And I'm like, you realize he only owns 15% or whatever it is of Amazon. Well, no, I don't know that. Okay, well, he's created, thousands and thousands of jobs, whatever the number is. It's a lofty number. And he's built blah, blah, blah. He's contributed, 7 figures worth of property tax. And you just go through all these horrible things that this rich person has done. And it's like they don't want to hear any of that because it doesn't fit the narrative 100%. At all. And it's like, but that's the whole picture. You don't get to just take the one thing about Joe Adams you don't like and define him with that thing. It's like, there's all those other 99% things.
But people will define you by one thing.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's just, life doesn't work that way, right? We live in Tennessee, we have all the weather. It's like saying Tennessee is always what the weather is now.
Right now, yeah.
It just doesn't work. Nothing works that way, man. Nope. Like, this drink was cold when I got it. It's going to be warm soon, right? It's not defined either way.
Yeah.
But everyone has a singular view on things and then aggressively have that view on that thing. It's like, man, do you know anything else about that person, thing, that company?
Yeah, we go through history in school, right? And they put all the world history in a book this big. Yeah. And they expect you to be like, all right, that's it. That's our
pretty
history.
Much it. We're good to go.
That's everything. And I'm like, no, dude, have you look at the broad view. Like, if you really want to understand history and relate it to today, it's so much fucking bigger.
History books are just like the media, right? It's happening right now. They're rewriting history books because they want to put in there what they want you to digest. Know or digest.
Hey, this is the truth. Just so you know, it's
pretty crazy.
Nothing more than this.
That's one of the things that's
no need to go outside this book.
Yeah,
it's got it all right here.
It's in a lot of things.
There's so much nuance too. I mean, the Bible's the same way. Like, there's so much nuance, even though that's a fact maybe that you read in that history book. There's still so much nuance to that.
Yeah.
Right.
What led up to that?
Yes.
Well, and even what was society like
at the
during
time,
that time, because it's not like it is today. And I think that's something that happens a lot too. And
I don't care what people believe in, even on the spiritual context, right? Like, with me, I know there's a lot of shit I got to read through to truly understand my path. And there's so much out there, and it's like a never ending thing. I had somebody be like, well, it's all in one book for me. And I'm like, listen, you can have faith in that. And I don't knock it at all, but don't you want to know more? There's more to it. There's got to be more outside of that.
Well, even with that book, there's not one version.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. So you could also gain context on that book. And the thing that kills me with
but it's also convenient.
Faith and that kind of thing. That's a bigger conversation. But when it comes to the Bible in particular, just because you bring it up, it's think about just this one little piece to it. There's obviously all the pieces you mentioned too, but just the one little piece about the fact that it's been translated 1,000 times is a problem, right? So there's words in there that are not. That's not what it says.
It's translated.
That's not what it said
by man.
And so you're sitting there telling me this is the word of God. Meanwhile, that's not the right translation, and I'll tell you what the right translation is, and you'll say it's not.
That's how King James wanted it,
right?
Or whoever.
Even I took a Bible class in high school, right? And it was just such a valuable class. I talk about it freaking 10 years ago, and I still talk about it all the time because it's such an interesting look at it. Because that's how I always wanted to be taught about the Bible and this kind of thing. It's don't just be well, if you question it, then it's no. I feel if you're going to ask me to give my soul eternally to you, you should be able to explain what you're talking about. That's my opinion. Yeah. And so one of the things that she brought up, which I loved, was the whole 7 days thing, right? She's well, the word that's in there, it translates, it's eras. An era is not it could be 1,000 years. They don't define how long that era was. There were 7 eras before this happened, but people literally look at it as 7 days, and it's like, that's not what it says. It's just not what it says.
Well, there's so much rigidity to all this stuff. It's like everyone wants to get it all into this little controllable box.
Yes. And that's the thing. And like I said, we're not knocking the beliefs. It's just knocking like the fact that people want the convenience of everything in one spot, because if they know, if everybody else agrees that that's where it's at, then it's like, all right, I can just do this and then I'm good.
It's like, less work. It's a quicker path, the easiest
path. Stop learning, right?
But yes. And then what comes with that too, though, man, is like, and then we judge anything and everyone outside of the box.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
dude, I know how that is.
All such hypocrisy, man. It's like, well, everything you are telling me you believe, because I'm over here, you're going against what you just said you believe because I have an opposing view. And I think people always receive that. I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm just saying I disagree.
I've had people tell me I'm wrong, I'm going to hell. Like,
of course they do.
And I'm like,
and I would never tell someone else that. Like, I go back to like, dude, whatever you want to do, as long as it's not harming me or anyone else, and as long as you're not telling me how I need to be or how I need to feel about the thing man.
Yeah, it was funny.
You do you, boo-boo.
Yeah, exactly. You do you, baby. But no, I agree 100%. But like people just want things to fit in a box, and like I'll never be that way.
People have to do this. Everyone's holding everything like, just let go.
Let go.
Just let go a little bit and quit trying to have so much freaking control on everything, man.
Dude, and that's the thing. A lot of people want to do that. Then I remember like booming off mushrooms one time last year when I went to the woods. I told you about that trip, and I was just having this really hard like time. And I remember looking at this fire, and like I just was like, this is life. Like life is like fire. It's just, you never know what the fuck is going to do. And if people would understand like just a simple analogy like that, but instead they think it's just like, I don't know, something that they can contain life and it's going to work out this way. Yeah. But you're always going to get disappointed if you think it's going to be that way.
Quick little jump back to what you were talking about Jeff Bezos, because I think that's an awesome point that nobody ever brings up, is that this even sounds insane even saying it, but some people don't believe in hierarchies. They don't think that that's a thing, or they think that it's forced and it's not natural, which is regrettably stupid. But point being is that in like a hierarchical system, which like if I just threw a basketball in this room and I said, let's go play basketball, a hierarchy would develop. It just is 100%. What it is. Like it just is what it is. So, but the reason why that's good for the crowd that doesn't like that, the reason why it's good is because if you have, let's say, I don't know, a surgeon, right? Don't you want the guy who's really, really good at it to be really, really rewarded so that he wants to do it? Like, if you didn't pay surgeons, how many surgeons would there be? How many really good surgeons would there be? Well, there's a reason. Their competence is what places them at the top of the hierarchy, and they should be rewarded as such.
The answer is yes, as long as it's a thing that I want to be that way.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's yes when it's the surgeon, but it's no when it's this thing over here I disagree with.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, it doesn't work that way. Like with anything in life, you have to take the bad with the good.
Right.
Yeah.
There is no version of freedom of speech where it works in your favor all the time.
100%.
There's going to be a time where there's a word that was offensive. But the rest of the time, you get to say whatever the hell you want.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's the trade-off. So I would take the 99% of the time for the every once in a while.
So like with Bezos, you'll take the contributions for the fact that, there's one guy with all this wealth, but look at what he contributed. That's the point. What does he contribute?
Well, and you have to look at the flip side. That same person saying those things has a porch full of Amazon shit. And it's like, that's so hypocritical, dude. If you're that passionate, then don't use the super convenient, cheap thing that the guy created that created all of his wealth.
Oh, what about Apple with their, one of the most woke companies in the world, and they, create their stuff through slave labor, basically.
Yeah,
and
it's
all
just
this kind of stuff. It's just, and the people who are on Twitter on their $1,000 iPhone,
yes, having something
talking
to say
shit.
about it.
It's like
that's why I get fair trade coffee beans. You know what I'm saying?
Fair trade. What does that mean?
It means like they get paid fair wages.
He says it on the package.
It's organic, dude.
No, in the underdeveloped countries, they make sure that like they're required. There's like a certification to be required to pay fair wages to those people in those countries.
Yeah, that's a solid move right there.
So it's kind of like what we're getting at with that.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah,
But it is. I was just saying mostly that it's ironic that the same people are tweeting on a iPhone 14.
It's all so hypocritical, man. Like, there's so much hypocrisy.
I'm not worried about Jeff Bezos' money. Like, good for him. Guess
too.
what?
Why the fuck do you care? Why are you going about your life caring about what Jeff?
I'll tell you, the victim.
Oh yeah.
100%.
The person that's so busy being the victim because they're not Jeff Bezos or whatever, it's way easier to bitch about what he should be doing instead of me doing anything about my circumstance.
I talked about this a while back, I talked about only greatness and the idea with Relentless Pursuit. Well, it's not the whole idea, but like, it's just something I think about often is like, where people are always worried about what somebody else is doing, like Jeff Bezos. But if you're chasing greatness yourself, you're not worried about what everybody else is fucking doing. Like I've got my path and I'm striving for more. Yeah. I don't have time to worry about what this dude's doing and this guy's doing with his shit. Let him fucking do it. I'm on my path. But there's a lot of people that aren't striving for shit. They're not striving for great things. They're not trying to excel. So by doing so, they get bored and they're just going to sit there and bitch about everything else.
Being a victim is easy.
Yep.
You don't have to do anything, right? And then now we're starting to reward that, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the worst, because now you can just not do anything, bitch, and actually be rewarded as if you did do something.
Yeah. I mean, it's the victim thing, dude. I mean, it's Jeff Bezos doesn't get to where he is because he was a victim.
Yeah.
Bill Gates, you go down through all the big money guys, there's no time for a victim. They have stories too. I guarantee you sit down with those guys. There's shitty stories, whether it's childhood or all the failures before. And that's the thing too, people don't realize, like, the Trumps and Bezos and Warren Buffett's didn't just, hello, I'm successful.
Yeah.
Like it's failure, sleeping on under an overpass.
You know that famous picture of Bezos in his office with the Amazon? It's not even a sign. It's just a big piece of paper that they spray painted Amazon on.
Every business starts somewhere.
Yep.
Dude, Andy Frisella, First Form. First Form's massive.
Yeah.
When he started First Form, he had a room maybe a 30 by 30 room, I think I read about. And he just had an American flag, a big American flag that was the ceiling that he had stuck up. He still has it. But that's where he started, leaky ceiling and shit. And then now he's got warehouses that are hundreds of thousands of square feet. It's the biggest supplement / lifestyle brand there is in the world, one of them. And he's just massive success. But he started there. He had been stabbed in the face at some point, crazy start. But look at the dude now, and it's really fucking cool to see. And but it took, there was those dark times.
Took all the things, man. Yeah. I mean, there's such little generational wealth in America anymore. This common thought from the victimhood side that you had this leg up and you had all these dude, there's very, very little of that. Most millionaires in America are self-made.
Yeah.
And they all have very similar stories, just like ours. It started way over here.
And a lot of billionaires too.
Drive. Sure, a little luck here and there.
Yeah.
Right. And it took time.
Yeah.
And then you land over here. It's this idea that we get to circumvent all of that and just quick pass right over here to this thing, and you don't have that path. It's dude, that's not how that goes most of the time. Not to say no one has, had a leg up or whatever, but for the most part, most of us are trudging through all this shit.
Yeah.
When they say luck,
to get there,
luck is preparation and opportunity.
Yeah, man.
Right. So it's
all the luck in the world's not going to matter if you're not already.
Exactly. And if you don't take the opportunity presented to you. So if you present me with an opportunity that I took and then did it well, somebody could look at that and say it was luck, when I actually made the decision that I could have not made to take that opportunity and run with it.
Turn it down.
You don't it's just, stupid. And to your point, the victimhood, I think it's a really big
victim.
It's the most passionate thing for me, man.
I was going to say, you were talking about that earlier.
I had some times in my life where I was playing the victim. And fortunately for me, it was very short-lived because I could see that it was just that path was going to lead nowhere.
Yeah.
Nowhere.
What would you say to people that are that way?
Get rid of your loser friends. It just starts with the people that are around you. And sometimes that's family and friends. And that's not saying you can't love them anymore. Still love mom or whatever it is. But you better put yourself in a room with people that are doing bigger shit.
It's because the people.
If you don't, there's 1,000,001 sayings around it, right? You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with and all those things. Super true. Same thing with the content. Let me get in your vehicle and hear what comes on the radio when you start that engine. Go home and show me what's, streaming on your Netflix.
Yeah.
Show me what book's on your nightstand. Introduce me to your friends and family.
Yeah.
You can pretty much tell right away,
Yeah.
I had a friend that I was living with one time, and this guy was just so miserable, man. He was just such a miserable guy, and he was a terrible friend and these other things too, which don't really matter. But one thing I never understood about him, it just drove me crazy, was he was just so miserable. Like I said, he had a job that he needed to have left 2 years before that. All these things that he could have influenced, right? But the legitimacy of his misery is really neither here nor there. What drove me crazy is this man would just listen to the saddest music, and he would watch depressing shit. And he, and there's something to, like, you're feeling a certain way, so you want to whatever. But that was like what he would wake up and listen to. And I would tell him, I'm like, do you think that, like, if you're like not feeling super great, and then you immediately play a song about suicide or like what, and then you're walking around singing, like, something's going to get stuck in your head, right? To your point about what you consume. It's like, I get shit stuck in my head all the time. And one thing I realized is, like, you know what really sucks to get stuck in my head is, like, really shitty music, right? It's like I try not to listen to that, right? So, like, with him, I would never understand that. I'd be like, dude, don't you think that this has some kind of impact on the way your mind is working?
I don't know. I wake up and listen to some black metal that's talking fire and death, and I'm like, I'm like, this is a good day.
But you're not depressed.
No.
Two things with that. Like, we have to remember, like, everyone's soul is on a different path.
Yeah.
So that may be that dude's. He didn't get to control that. Maybe that's the journey he's on. A, and then B, the other big one. And shout out to Chad King. He's a good buddy of Eric Hensley. You'll meet him at some point.
Okay, cool.
Good friends of ours, Chad and Jen King. They live down here in Murfreesboro now.
Okay.
We're having lunch, my wife and I, and Chad and his wife, a year or two ago, and Rachel had really been struggling with just trying to, like, bring friends and family over to this side with, like, mindset and healthy relationships around money and just all the things, wellness. And she was feeling really defeated, right? And Chad says, well, you have one big problem. And he's like, quit being the tugboat, be the lighthouse. And what he means by that is, like, you're trying to pull all this dead weight that don't want to go or doesn't want to go to the light. He's like, your job is to be the light. It's their job to get to the light, and then you shine the light on them once they get there. And I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah, that's fucking brilliant.
Because we all do it. Like, right, your buddy, it's like you want so badly to pull him, not to say don't be there for someone, but someone that's just perpetual in this thing.
There's balance.
That's his way of telling you, like, here's where I want to be.
Yeah.
And you want so badly to just pull and like, man, there's this great thing happening over here. If he doesn't want to go there, you're gonna exhaust yours. So what happens is you slowly start getting pulled away from the light, right? Yeah. You start getting pulled, and it's that misery loves company thing. So you go from trying to do this awesome thing, but that dead weight just pulls you and pulls you and pulls you.
It's like when you try to save somebody from drowning, right?
Yeah. So, prime example, and I talked to a dear friend of mine the other day, and he fessed up a month or so ago, about a couple months ago, and he was like, hey, on the way to rehab, like, I've been taking fentanyl pills every day, spending like $400 a day on these fucking pills, man.
Taking fentanyl on purpose?
They were fentanyl laced, and so he could react, like, he could handle it. He said it was amazing how it felt, but he was like fucking taking a lot of them, and like somebody took half of a pill from that same batch and like OD. They didn't die, but it was a friend of his, and he's just like, I'm not going to be worth the shit. I'm going to be a fucking terrible husband and father one day. I'm not, all these things. He was like super disappointed in himself. He's like, I'm on my way to rehab. And met with him last week, and he's just like, dude, I mean, I'm not doing anything. I'm not drinking. I'm not smoking. I'm cutting everything out. Like, I'm fucking done with it. I'm doing 90 meetings, 90 days. Like, and that's not a requirement, but I just want to go every day. But to him, that's kind of like that light, you know, and it pushes him to be better. But we talked about, the thing is that he's got a lot of support. Like his woman, her family, like his friends around him are all like, hey, we're fucking here for you, dude. Like, you do better. Like, we want the best for you. And he has that. The thing is, he gave me an example. This dude that was there got released. The next day he came back, like tail tucked under, and because he had used that night. Yeah. He got out and used. And the fact of the matter is like, but it goes back to what you're saying about the people around you, because my boy gets to come back to people that care and support him and are going to be that light and hold him to that standard. A lot of these people are going to go back to the same old people that are doing the same dumb shit, and they're going to enable them and just keep dragging them down. And those people will never break that cycle because the people around them fucking suck. Yep. and they're just going to keep spiraling out of control. And that's the thing is like eventually you got to cut those strings. And I've had to do that in the past. It's like, all right, you know what? I'm done with this person, this person, this person. They're toxic as fuck to my life. And I just have to separate myself. And it's honestly some of the best decisions I've ever made.
Always.
The hard part with that, man, is sometimes like that dude, that's so unfortunate, right? Like you talk about good luck, bad luck, that's what he has in his corner. You know, and even if it's friends and family, again, it's like, all right, well, yes, you're going to have a tougher road to get to the light, whatever the light is.
Yeah.
But it's still your responsibility to go find it. And people get stuck in the like, poor me, I don't have the support system this other guy does.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, but that doesn't mean the support system isn't out there. Exactly. It's just not coming in the same format.
You got to find it.
So you have, and that goes back to like, you can sit over here and be the victim, or you can go find. So what? It comes from strangers or church or whatever. But like, go find it.
Yeah. If you want better, look for better.
There are people out there that will give a shit.
Yeah.
They're out there.
There's a saying that I like a lot of. That's like what you're talking about. It's like basically, because I don't remember it verbatim, and I hate messing stuff up. But there's a difference between fault and responsibility, right? Yeah. So like the metaphor that goes along with that saying is like if a swan, like just hypothetically, if a crane dropped the baby off at your front step, well, that wasn't your fault, but that's damn sure your responsibility. Now there's a baby
still
on
your
your
circumstance, and people get like, don't get it twisted with fault.
Right.
Still your circumstance.
Right.
Well, it's your responsibility. Like, and like, yes, we can agree that your situation is shittier than his.
Yes.
But that doesn't give you the free pass to not still try to get over here.
100%.
Yes, because because you may have that situation, but there's a lot of examples around you that have been in similar situations that have fucking taken it to the moon. You know what I'm saying? And done killer shit and totally changed their life.
Well, just because this person got a straight line there on this thing, their next line to the next thing may be world class shit.
Yeah.
And then now you're humming right along. It's just we get lost in like, again, man, like, who cares how that guy did or didn't get there, or what he had or didn't, like.
Good for him.
Who cares?
Yeah. It's like thumbs up, dude. Keep doing your thing. I'm going to do my thing.
But again, everyone picks the easy path. And what's easiest? Victim.
Yep.
Poor me.
Do you like Jordan Peterson?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff I'm talking about, I love Jordan Peterson.
I love the rawness of that dude.
Me too.
Like,
in the class.
So much emotion, so much
got so much class too.
Man's classy for sure.
And then just hit you with data.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's what I love too, is like he's passionate about.
I love his passion.
But what's interesting is like he's not opinionated.
Right.
Like he's just passionate about the facts.
I know that kills me the way that people portray him. I'm like, dude, he's a clinical psychologist. He's just speaking from a very high value experts level.
Well, the reason they don't like it is because it, again, doesn't fit their narrative that's not based on fact.
Right.
I mean, he hits you with these passion, and I mean like facts.
Yeah.
Like years and years and years of research, and especially when it comes to biology and all the shit that's going on with that right now.
Yeah.
And then he just hits you with straight up facts. Yeah. And he starts talking about, well, where are all the women bricklayers and where, like, and I'm like, yeah.
Jordan, by the way, you're more than welcome to come on to my podcast.
Yeah. I mean, he's an animal. I mean, I've seen him cry in some episodes. Like he is passionate. He's not a passionate just because he has an opinion on a thing and it fits something like.
Well, I hate it too because I've seen him cry about how people portray him to be as like this evil guy, or whatever. But I saw him cry one time because he's talking about. He said, "These people who think of me this way and think that I have such a negative impact," he said, "if they saw the people that come to my shows, and these young men who tell me that they've never bought a suit in their life, and these young men who say they've gotten their act together and they have a girlfriend for the first time, and it's and all these things," and he starts crying about it, and it's like, yeah, you tell me that's a bad guy, and I'll tell you you're wrong. Because that guy's a great guy. And the hierarchy thing is what I was talking about from him, right? Yeah. So from 12 Rules for Life, like I'm a pretty high level reader, and I can most of the time I had to literally take a break from that book. I was like, this shit is just so deep and honestly, it was kind of depressing. Like the main thing I took from the book was that he was trying to establish suffering to then say that there is as much suffering as there is that much light. Yeah. It's like what I feel like was the premise of the whole book in a way. But anyways, the hierarchy thing I was going to bring up, you were saying they have a straight line here, but maybe over here they don't. One thing that he talks about that I love, and again, it's just logical, makes logical sense. He's like, people act like there is one hierarchy. And he said life is a game is a saying that people say. He said, no, life is a series of games, right? So where you may be at the top of a hierarchy for one particular thing that same person could be at the bottom of the hierarchy of another thing. So you can't play this game and act like it's a zero sum. Everybody's at the top because everybody goes through something.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody has.
And everyone is going through something.
Yes.
Always.
Right.
Somehow, some way, they're going. You can have someone that's at top of their game in their field, right? But then like total disaster at home.
Think about like NFL.
Like total disaster.
I don't want to say just NFL players, but like athletes.
Pro athletes.
They are literally world class at what they do.
Yeah.
But that does not mean they know anything about financial literacy, about being a good man. And I'm not saying that professional athletes are bad people. I'm just saying that's a great example because you could imagine Steph Curry. How good is Steph Curry at shooting a three? I mean, world class, best ever, right?
Yeah.
That means nothing to where he is on
What is
any
that,
other
hockey?
hierarchy.
Yeah. Is that like hockey puck,
basketball.
hockey pucking or something?
He calls sports ball.
Hockey
It's hilarious.
But at the same time, even that, he's only going to be the top of that for a period.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that will go away in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And then
Now he's
there's
gotta
the
work
rest of his life where that really doesn't matter any longer.
Prime example, Jeff Bezos ain't always going to be alive. So there's always going to be someone else coming in like and doing something even bigger and crazier, you know? And that's the thing. Like, so if you're so worried about him, like you could be that guy, but instead you're bitching about it. I don't know.
Oh, it's just like Trump, right? Like I can separate what he did policy wise versus him, the human.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's an idiot in a lot of cases with the shit that he says and does, but I think he's an absolute animal over here on this side, and same person, right? So I don't love him exclusively because of this, and I don't hate him exclusively because of this.
I love the shit he says and does because it gets people
What's
so
hilarious.
upset.
Yeah.
And it's just, I love seeing people freak out.
I do too, but I mean,
it's not
like,
that serious.
But I would take like the smooth talking of an Obama,
Right,
and the
and mix
actions
it with Trump.
of
That
a
would be-
Trump.
that would be the greatest-
like
that
that's
would be the greatest
a badass leader of the country. And people have to realize too, who the hell wants that gig?
Oh yeah. Well, who
Who the hell wants
know.
that gig?
who could
man?
ever do it right?
There is no right.
Who could ever do it right? Nobody.
No, it's the same thing with all the stuff people are bitching about in the country right now. There is no law on abortion where everyone likes it.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be a room divided. Period. End of discussion. Like,
What are you going to do about that division? You're gonna get aggressive and that's your enemy now, like we were saying before. Or are you going to get like?
you've got to find some common ground and some
Right.
compromise, and people just have to know the thing doesn't always get to go my way.
Yeah.
Period. Like that's the whole story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
it really is. Like
It's I got my views on like all that, you know what I'm saying? Like I do. But also, I don't know, just try to be open-minded with things too. Like at the end of the day, like I can control my actions. That's it. If like this is like a policy or whatever, like I don't know, but people freak out about it. It needs to be this way or that way, and
Well, and that goes
they
back
just
to
lose
your,
their mind.
your victimhood thing.
and again, even with that, like until that thing has impacted their life in a different way, and now it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's what Joe meant all that time.
It's all about perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people don't.
People lack it.
They're not willing to broaden their perspective.
Unless they have experienced it, people most of the time aren't willing to see it from your eyes.
well, it's like
empathy at all? No
yeah.
empathy.
I've talked about, you know, there's somebody in my life that like really doesn't like my beliefs.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and we've talked about in the past episodes, and like it's causing a lot of problems. Well, just not a ton, but they're just like really don't like it. You're going to hell, like that kind of mindset. And at first I get frustrated. I'm like, man, it's so fucked up and closed-minded. But at the same time, I'm like, listen, at the end of the day, like that's their perspective. They've created this court system in their mind that's been conditioned to them their whole life. And like their perspective is that. Why am I taking it personal? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't faze me.
Yeah.
It doesn't change my heart or who I am. That's them. And I can just like not listen to it.
It's not
or just
your
like,
job to change their mind.
and it's not my job to change my mind. Why put my effort into that? Like because I could put my effort and stuff into people that do love and accept me or whatever, you know, and that's the ones that matter.
See it with religion all the time.
If they want to come around, they'll come around. If they don't, that's on them. But
It's too bad.
yeah, it's too bad.
I mean, that's really how you have to look at it. It's too bad. Like,
Yeah.
It really is too
You-
bad,
you-
especially in that case.
you can't go around changing your beliefs every time someone doesn't like them because you would never have beliefs.
well, yeah, but then
And that's what I was
like-
trying to say earlier. I keep saying the enemies thing, and that's every time I say that, somebody says, "Well, they're not your enemy," and I really don't mean it the way, but that's what I mean. Is that like you have to at some point, if you have an issue with somebody and because of something that you really do believe in, you have to stand up for
Yeah,
it.
you have to-
If that makes a quote not an enemy, but you know what I mean. If that puts them at odds with you,
just
then
kinda
it's
is what it
conviction.
then it is what it is.
To me, that's one of the most admirable traits in people is conviction. If I come to you and say, that's wrong, this is right, like, and they're like, you know what, you're right. I'm going to lose so much respect for somebody that the fact that I was able to sway them that easily, like, damn, you have zero conviction into what you believe in. I want someone that's like, no, fuck that. Like, I stay true to who I am. You can shoot me in the head now. I'm sticking with it. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome.
That
conviction is
and here's the beauty with that, right? Fast forward 10 years. Now you're a dad and these other things. Some of those could change.
Yeah.
And that's okay too.
Yeah.
But like, that's not oh, I thought you were like in that season of my life. Yes. In this season of my life, my views have skewed a little.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like, that's the thing, man. Like, it's all a moving target.
I used to be
it's
really
all
hard.
a sliding scale, dude. It just is. Like,
yeah, there's certain things I've always, for the past several years, I've been really, this is
season of life matters.
I've definitely like broadened my perspective and just kind of like opened my mind a little bit more to be like, all right, that's what I believe for me, but I can like see things through other people's eyes in a sense. And
that doesn't mean you have to agree with them. And that doesn't mean you're trying to convince them that your view's right. It's just, I believe this for myself.
You can agree to disagree.
And it should just kind of stop there, really. But we spend so much time like, no, you've got to believe the way I believe or else kind of thing.
That's and it comes to everything, and religion, like, all the social issues like race or sexual preferences or gender. Like, people are freaking out about all this shit. Like, guess what? If you don't like transgenderism, don't be a transgender. Like, you don't like that. Who cares that this person over in New York is a transgender? Like, I could give a fuck less. Doesn't mean I'm going to be transgender. I think all
everyone needs is like the ability to do and then not be told how you have to feel about it.
Yeah.
That's it.
But
but people can't, man. And that all comes from insecurity, right? It all comes from ego and needing to control and all that shit. Like,
so you gave me all these points, and I think we're really covering the one that says, why are we so divided?
Oh, yeah.
This just seems to be like...
But it's an easy fix, and that's what's so frustrating is it is the freest country in the world. Like, there is a reason everyone wants to be here, and the very thing that drives everyone to want to be here is the very thing we're all bitching about.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't get to have it both ways. If you want all of the freedoms, you have to know sometimes it doesn't go your way. Life works that way. Business works that way. Relationships work. Like, sometimes business is great. Sometimes you get kicked in the nuts.
Yep.
You can change all the policy in the world and take away all the freedoms, and guess what's still going to happen? Yep. Sometimes it's not going to go your way.
No matter what you do. No matter what you do.
So why not have all of the opportunity with the freedoms over here to have greatness?
Right. Yeah.
And just know at times things are going to happen.
I was thinking the other day about the saying, I think it's Benjamin Franklin. He says, if you trade freedom for security, expect you'll have neither, or something like that. And I was thinking about that, and like, you hear it, and it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But then I was like really thinking about it, and I was like, to your exact point, it's like, and I go back to balance all the freaking time. This is like the Irish version of the yin and yang, right? Okay. So it's all balance, right? And I just think that's because that's what it's always, every conversation always seems to come back to, yeah, but with a dose of this, right? There's always balance. And balance isn't 50-50. Balance could be 85-15. It could be 70-30. But there's a correct balance. And like you said, it moves sometimes depending, et cetera, et cetera. But I was thinking about that. And it's like the balance to that, like you said, take the good with the bad. There's so much more good in freedom than not having it. But there is some inherent risk with freedom. Like, and you could talk about that on a 1-to-1 scale. It's like, if you're a parent and you give your kid the keys to a car and you just let them go, like, you're giving them freedom, but you are risking their security a little bit. But if you never let them drive, they're real secure. But
then are they?
But do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're like, you can't have it both ways. Like you said, if you need the freedom, and yes, there is some inherent risk with it, but it's still having the freedom outweighs the risk that you could encounter.
But we have to have the bad, right? You learn from losing. You don't learn from winning.
Yeah.
So when you get knocked down, you're like, oh shit, I don't want to feel that again. So now you're going to train a little harder.
Yeah.
Or you're going to push harder. Like, if you just, everything's easy, everything's secure, whatever. Well, there's no motivation, there's no drive, whatever. It's all taken care of.
Yeah, it's not even fun.
But it's taken care of at a very low level.
At a base level.
You need to suffer.
Yes. I mean, and that's crazy to say out loud, but the problem with that is no one wants to hear that.
Shoot, my group of guys, we have the same. It's from Warhammer 40K, but it's suffering is our prayer, and that's like something we always say. It's very important to us, but In essence, it is. And that's because that forces us to grow.
When you figure too, man, you live 90 years, you're going to experience some suffering.
Yeah.
Like to think you're going to have 90 years of bliss, you're insane.
Most people, their greatest prison is within their mind. And if they learn how to free their mind, then they truly are free. It doesn't matter how many fucking chains are holding you down. If your mind's free, then freedom, you can be ultimately free. I take it from that book, The Four Agreements. Have you read The Four Agreements? All right, I got you a copy, actually sitting in there. You will love it because it falls in line with a lot of stuff we talk about. Yeah, I need to get him one. Okay. But it talks about that, like eliminating, like, we talked about the victim a lot. And this basically explains we've all created this judge, jury, and victim within our minds. And it's over years of conditioning and social conditioning and external influence from like family or whatever, religion. We've created this, basically this legal system within our minds. And that literally forces all our decisions and our mindset on everything that we do. And like, we think this way and you're wrong because I think this way, but it's because we've been conditioned that way. But if you can shed at the end of the day, if you can just burn that courtroom down and eliminate those three things, then you can be truly free. Children are free.
There's that. Oh yeah.
Because they don't have that. Yeah. They don't have the judge, jury, and victim. So children, like, doesn't matter where they live in their mind, they're already free because they have creativity. They haven't built rules and fucking think it has to be this way. They're truly free. But if we all had the potential to get there, we just have to break those chains, And so that's freedom, man. Free your mind.
Well, you watch kids. I mean, I joke all the time because kids don't have a filter. So, I mean, if you're fat and walk in a room, they're going to say you're fat. Now, they're not saying you're fat to hurt your feelings because they don't know what that means.
Right.
That's
just an observation to them.
It's just an observation. But we have actually seen, there's been certain circumstances where people in our life, a situation like that has happened, and the adult made it personal. And it's like that kid's 5. They have no idea what it means to like purposely hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
It's just they saw a thing and called it the thing. Or whatever it is. And I'm like, not to say we should be acting like that, right? We develop filters for a reason, but there's something too when you watch kids, man, they're super creative. There's no give a shit. It's all about experience and having fun and exploring and all of those things. And then it's like we get into, and society dictates it to a degree, but like, it's just everything's a rule. Everything's a box. Everything, to your point, even like allowing yourself to stop for a week, 2 weeks. And just because. Yeah. Like, because you should. Like, this idea that, like, the weekend is enough recharge time, once a week is crazy. Mm-hmm. Like, you should take whatever time. Now, again, most jobs, most situations don't allow that. Yeah. But, like, that stuff's so important, man. And, like, looking at yourself, to your point, like, and most of the time, we are our biggest obstacle. Yep. And to your point, most of the time, that is your thinking. Like, and it's pretty simple. Whether you think you can or can't, you're probably right. Yep. Or whatever the saying is.
That's exactly what it is.
And you're like, damn, man, it's so simple, not easy.
But it's not easy.
It's just so simple.
Yeah. I love that saying too. It's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah. Well, you got 30 plus years of conditioning, it's hard to it's hard to
So you have to unlearn. Sure. There's so much we have to unlearn, that's just been pounded in our head, to your point, whether it was church or family or whatever. It takes a long time, man, to get that shit out of your head.
Well, it's like I had to talk with my girl last night because she's Christian, I'm pagan, right? And like we're different beliefs. But, we had the same values and morals and stuff like that. But I was like, baby, if you think about it, like, it's an opportunity. Like, I think our kid's going to be so fucking cool because they're raised in that. Because dad's going to have his cool stories about his stuff. Mom's going to have her cool stories. They're going to see that we love each other and that we have this beautiful relationship regardless of that.
Separate.
And they're going to grow up with like such a different perspective than most kids. I'm like, babe, like, this is a pretty cool opportunity for our kid. I think it's going to really play a huge part into who they become because they're not going to be forced in the box of it's this way or not. It's this way or you're done. Yeah, but that's how you're raised. But I think it's really fucking cool.
That is really cool.
Honestly pretty excited about it.
Both of those at their core, it's the same values.
Yes.
And that's what matters.
Like, if you really break it down to here, it's the same shit.
Well, it's like when we met, I was like, that's the thing. Like, to me, like, values and morals are kind of like the things you have to connect on in a relationship. And we hit that off right off the bat. And I was like, okay. And then we got the spiritual difference. But yeah, that's the thing. It comes back. We had the same values and stuff. So that's what we teach them. And then we just share stories of what we are.
These should stay the same. That may change, right?
Yeah.
She may not be a Christian in 20 years. But if those values and morals stay the same, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I've got a brother-in-law that was a priest and, went to school he was pretty gung-ho, Christianity. And now he's kind of on the other end of that. And, if he was in an unhealthy marriage or whatever, that they connected on that instead of the core,
Right.
Yeah.
it would have rocked their world.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's had some impact, but it's not rocked their world. Yeah. And that should be okay. To think a belief today is a lifelong commitment is crazy.
Yeah.
Because again, things change, new information, new season of life, new exposure, whatever it is. Man, I don't know, that it didn't feel right anymore. That should be okay.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we come together on these false things, and if that thing ever were to change, it just implodes because
those are like labels too.
there was nothing here at the core.
Yeah.
To your point, it's those values. Do we connect on values, or do we connect on this superficial exterior thing?
Yeah.
And the moment that thing goes away, man, you're destined for trouble.
Exactly. So I think it's fucking dope. So
that's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That kid is going to have a very.
I think you guys will approach both of those from the right mindset too.
Yeah.
No one's going to be pushing an agenda.
Yeah.
Right,
which I think is super important. And I don't know why it is with religion that it's one of the worst categories where people just pound an agenda, man.
I think it's because I would say just because of the state, what people believe the stakes are.
Yeah.
Right. People feel the compulsion to say that they want to bring you into Christianity because they genuinely think that your soul's going to burn forever. And if they care about you, they're like, dude, I can't let this happen. And I know this is uncomfortable, but let me just tell you about this because I really want, and if it's that kind of conversation, that's not even necessarily bad. We're talking about a little bit of the outlier people, but I think that it comes from that. If you think about things that people are really passionate about, as sports come to mind, right? People are psychos about sports teams. Yeah. So because they're really super, super, super passionate about it, they really super, super believe in their team and their players and their coach and all this shit. So with religion, it's that on steroids. It's I really believe in my best player, which is Jesus Christ. Let me tell him about you. I
have all confidence that I'm not going to burn in hell. I literally don't worry about that.
That doesn't mean that they're right.
Same.
I'm just saying.
Exactly. But that's the thing. People are so convinced.
I think that's where it comes from. Is just that. It's passion on some level. I think that's
At the end of the day, with everything in life, there's really no black and white. It's all gray. That's how I look at it. Everything's gray.
Yeah.
The more your mind opens, the more you realize that. And if you can get out of your mind that it's this way or that way, no matter what it is, not just religion, but in so many different things, then, it goes back to what we're talking about. That'll free your mind.
It's true.
I saw a video to your point.
Where are we at on time, by the way?
We're almost 2 hours. So we can wrap up in a second.
What time is it?
Damn, we did. What time you got to be out?
I need to leave here by noon at the latest.
What time is it?
11:15.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I need to be somewhere noon too. But I was just going to say.
I got to be in Mount Juliet at 1:00 for a meeting. Okay. So I'm good.
Yeah, we can wrap up in just a second. But I was just going to say about the maintaining and building your relationship on these things, because these things may change. What religion you're attached to, whatever the label is, right? Yeah, I think that's super true. And one area that has come about because of the divisions that exist, right, is politics. It's it would be really difficult to be with someone who has exact opposite values and morals as you. And a lot of times values and morals form what your political opinion is. But I saw a video the other day that was basically it was a young man, and he was saying hypothetically, if a young man was with a young woman who was very one way, it doesn't even really matter what it was. And the response that the guy gave, I think, was brilliant. He's well, first of all, you need to determine if that person is that way because they've heard a bunch of buzz phrases and they're just repeating them, and they, want to be a part of something, so they identify themselves with this, or is it actual values and principles that they believe in? And if it's just the first thing, then, that will change, or you could, you can approach it differently. But if it's the values that are underpinning those things, that's where where you have an issue.
I think most of the time it's the first, right? Watching people.
I think so too, especially in politics. But
we're a couple years into Biden being president. I still don't know what their policy is other than hate Trump.
Yeah.
I still don't know.
And that's what they ran on too.
What are you doing?
Well, that's the thing. When it comes down to politics too, a lot of people are I'm not voting for Trump because he's apparently a big Christian old white racist guy, and that's all they know or they think they know. Like somebody else probably told them that, and they're like, I'm not fucking voting for him.
But I'm voting on like policy, not how much I like you.
Right. And like, people headline read with him more than anybody I've ever seen. Just headline
same thing
read.
like with, athletes, right? Or musicians or whatever it is, they'll find out that this person did a thing.
Yeah.
Right? Or, they were bad to their wife or whatever thing. It's like, that's not why I like their music. Like, right. I honestly don't care what their personal life looks like. Oh. They write killer music, and I like that music.
You got to separate art from artist.
Yeah, yep. And it's like, well, dude, like,
exactly
that's on you. You put that person on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Like, he's just amazing at shooting the basketball. Like,
so what about in like cancel culture? Somebody was like, you listening to them is supporting them because they're going to make money off of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
I'm not saying I'm just presenting the other.
But that's how everything works.
Right.
Right? If I drink this drink, I'm supporting them.
It's been in the frame the whole time.
And then maybe I know something, I find out something about the company or what, like, and then, but I love the drink.
Right.
I guess at that point, if you want to do that, do the research on every product you consume, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Good luck.
Because then you got to do that for everything.
You got like the Fairlife protein shakes you can buy.
That's a great point. You got to do that for everything at that point. You have to.
Good luck. I mean, it's so you just know that because that one's popular right now. Right. But I guarantee you, if we dig far enough in Chick-fil-A,
and into this,
there's going to be something you're like, oh shit, now I don't get to have Chick-fil-A. Right. And then I I came down here in my Tahoe. Let me research Chevrolet. Oh God, there was this one time in '87 that Chevrolet did this thing, and it's just like
that's one of the brilliant things I think about Jordan Peterson's hierarchy argument, because he was using Soviet Russia as an example of like a society that developed in that way, where they started putting people in oppressor versus oppressed hierarchies, essentially. And they said, well, you're the oppressor. And so they would take their land, and then eventually they ended up start fucking killing people.
Yeah.
But he was like, aside from the violence that always comes from that, because people get real resentful, bitter, it always turns to violence. But aside from that, the other just fundamentally, like from an ideological standpoint, issue with that is that there are multiple hierarchies, and you will always be the oppressor at some point. So you can talk about, like, because the main point is that class forms to bring down the oppressor, right? But because there's so many games being played, you will always become the oppressor, or you are on some level the oppressor. So for example, it's like he would say, let's say that you say like a woman is an oppressee, right? So they're being oppressed. Let's just say you say that. Well, what about a minority woman? What about a man who's a minority? Like, how do you, at some point, you become the oppressor no matter what? So remember when you wanted to, or remember when you executed your neighbor for being the oppressor? Well, now we found a category where you're the oppressor. So you don't get to get executed now, right? Like, that's how it develops, and it's such a dumb way to think about things because of that.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to Joe's point. Like, it's just not so black and white. It's so complicated. It's all so complicated, dude. Like, and it goes back to like, how deep do you want to go?
Yeah.
It turns out surface.
But guess what? You're not going to figure it out.
Most of the time, everyone wants to go surface here.
Very
Whatever's hot right now. I want to be for or against that thing just at a very surface level.
And politicians are the worst about that. When you could look up like videos of like Joe Biden or anybody, there's a lot of examples, but going back and saying, I just happened to have seen one from him the other day, but he was like, I'm just gonna say what it was. He was like, no, I believe, and I think that this needs to be, what he was like very adamant about. He's like, that marriage is between a man and a woman, and states need to appreciate that. And then it flipped over to like a picture of him at like a LGBTQ like thing, like standing in the middle of it. And it's just funny because he literally said the exact opposite. Because at the time, it wasn't cool to be like, gay marriage is cool. Like,
it goes back to it's whatever fits the narrative. So exactly. So many people like that's not a core belief.
Yeah,
it's just this thing right now that fits the current narrative, and that could change tomorrow, 4 years, whatever. And that's not just if I'm trying to get elected. It's whatever the landscape is.
Yeah. And
it goes right back to hypocrisy, man. People are so hypocritical. Like, I don't give a shit if gay people are getting married. Like, to think they're going to ruin marriage. Like, we've already done that. Like, it's why like 60% of them end in divorce. Like,
how many, like, I saw the number of atomic households, which atomic families or whatever, that's like when the parents and the children are all within one household, the percentage is like below 20% or something, man, in America. Or like it's like 10% or something.
Two dudes getting married, to think that's somehow going to affect the sanctity of my marriage is crazy.
It is pretty
I saw
nuts.
somebody arguing that the other day.
That has no impact. Now,
Like I married
again,
Lydia, and I'm like, oh my god, I don't know if I can be with you. Those dudes are married.
Now, here's the thing.
we gotta get it. It's like
you may disagree with, two men marrying each other, but like whatever.
I talked about this.
Whatever.
I talked about that with Charles.
Who
Like,
gives a
just the people don't have to agree with whatever your decision is. Like, but that's okay.
I always say like
I don't. There's a lot of things I don't agree with.
there's
but
agreeing and accepting.
Yes.
Like, I may disagree with it, but I accept it.
Yeah, that's how you were putting it. I think
Yeah,
when we were
that's
having
exactly
that
what I said.
conversation.
Yeah.
You don't have to you don't have to agree with
And he actually
everything
said
I
it
believe
backwards.
in.
He said it backwards in that conversation. It sounded so bad. He was like, "Wait, no, it's that."
But no,
Hey,
that's
happens.
I mean, that's the thing, dude. Like, okay. Like, cool, man. Again, you go do you, as long as it's not having a negative impact on anyone, and don't tell me how I need to feel about it.
Exactly.
Like, I'm saying, I'm open enough to say, awesome, dude. Like, you should go do that.
Oh yeah.
And so that means go do it.
Go be happy.
Well, how did you put it? How did you put it earlier? You said you should have the freedom to act, but you should not have the freedom from like people not. You said something about, or you were like, you believe that everybody should have the freedom to do what they want to do, but not the freedom to not be.
Well, the big thing is like, you don't have the freedom to tell everyone how they need to feel about it.
Right.
I don't do that.
But you do believe they should have the freedom to do it.
Sure,
Right,
man. Like, I think that's very misconstrued. Like, by all means, equal opportunity, same thing, right? We should all have the exact same opportunity to do the thing, but that's where it stops.
Yeah.
And then whoever excels.
Yeah.
Period. It goes back to your surgeon thing, right? I don't want some dipshit in there because something had to happen and now this dude's the one cutting on me. I want the baddest human being possible.
Exactly.
To be the guy that's, reattaching my leg.
Dude, it's like
Period. I don't care how anyone feels about
his.
That's how that should be.
It's the guy that wrote. The guy did the surgery for my Rex, like the orthopedic surgeon. One of the best in fucking the state, like in the country. He's written like 50 or 60 books, all doctor shit. I mean, he's really good, and he fixed me up. I remember seeing after that he was writing all this COVID policy. I didn't agree with all of it.
Yeah.
But better believe if I ever break some shit again, I want to go to him and have him as my surgeon, I don't agree,
Think of the disservice you're doing to yourself if you were to find yourself in a situation, but now because of a view on COVID, you wouldn't go to that guy. Yeah. That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Like if the three of us suddenly were in the NBA because there was something like, it'd be unwatchable.
Right.
Unwatchable because you want the top of whatever the thing to be the one doing it. And sometimes it's like, whether it's a race or male or female or whatever, just so happens to be the better fit for the thing.
Right.
Like you can argue that
personally, right?
all day long, but like men are biologically stronger than women,
right?
Most of the time. Just biology.
It's
typically
that's not an opinion. That's based
not
off of
every
scientific
man
fact.
is stronger than every woman.
Yeah.
But
that takes some maturity too, because I hate when this woman, dude, okay, you get what we're saying.
Yeah.
Like, and that's another way that they take you off the point too.
That's not being, about equality.
Right.
Like no one's saying like, hey man, if she wants to compete just know it's not going to be
These
pretty.
are some misogynistic
probably like
comments going on here.
It's just like women typically are better caregivers.
Yes.
Right?
They can give birth.
Typically they're going to be a more emotional, caring human being because that is what's in their DNA.
Yes.
Right. That's not to say men can't be.
Right.
Just typically most nurses are women. Not because men can't be nurses, but women just happen to be typically more caring.
Yeah. Right.
Like they just have it in them to want to take care of you and want you to be well and whatever. Not every woman is. And not to say, and that's what everyone just wants to like, oh.
Yeah, what?
Right.
Oh, you're saying this thing.
Right.
It's like, no, that's just reality.
Well, for one thing, it's just reality. It just
just is, man.
I'm not trying to say anything to or about you. I'm just speaking. Like to your point about the kid, right? Like
yes.
I'm just speaking.
Yeah, that's not an opinion.
Right.
That's a thing like, oh, well, he think like, no, that's not an opinion. That's just factual. That's just a factual thing.
But then by making certain statements, though, even if you're stating facts, people will create their own opinion about you just for saying because you stated facts, and they'll hate you because of it.
And then you have to lay out all this what you didn't mean by it.
Right. That's the worst.
I'm not saying blah 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 blah. Like, well, obviously, I'm not saying that.
And that's what I'm saying is that some kind of like intellectual maturity is needed by the other person at some point to be like, dude, look, I'm not going to sit here and go through every single example of what I don't mean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
well, and then half the time, like, it's not even worth to defend yourself. I had, I'm not going to get into it, but some lady like made a post about me based off some tattoos and like said all these negative things and like immediately made this judgment off me without any understanding of anything. And,
because it has to be, right? Because only a certain type of person would ever get a tattoo. I'm covered in tattoos.
Right. Yeah, and she made some pretty harsh judgments, like based off.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Dude, talking about judgment, I would have never in a million years. I would have never thought.
Hidden, yeah. But they were like saying all these things, and I'm like, you know what? And someone was freaking out. They're like, you need to make some kind of stuff or talk to them. I'm like, listen, this person already made their opinion. Like by me going backtracking and being, hey, no, wait, you don't understand.
It's not your job to change it.
Then they're just gonna. It's just gonna cause an argument. They're going to try to fight it. They've already made their decision.
It's unfortunate, man, because it's so superficial. And what we need is more human connection. And the only way to do that is get past surface. Now, after some spending time with you, she still may find out that you are a piece of shit.
And she'd be fucking right, too.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, at least get to there and then form an opinion.
Right, exactly.
Like, now, some people make that difficult, right? I mean, you don't have, there's not enough bandwidth and time to deep dive every human that you meet, but it's just so unfortunate. We spend so much time at surface level.
Well, it's like we got groups. It's like me and my friends, we got our group, right? And like, it's this circle and we're all in it and we know what it's about. We understand it. But you get a lot of people that just come to the end of the circle and they're just like, watching and they're like, that's some like, what the fuck are they doing in there?
Bullshit.
They will not come past that line. They will not come into the circle or like try to. They'll just stay on the outside because it's safe there. Because this is like some unknown territory, and they'll make their judgment off of just kind of looking over heads and shit. And that's just like that. But that is like people with most things in life.
Well, everyone fears what they don't understand first. Two, everyone's so self-consumed, they're not genuinely interested anyway.
Yeah.
And then three, it's just easy to hate.
It is.
Just easy. It goes back to the victim thing. It's just easy to hate on shit.
Yeah.
I don't have to do anything.
Yeah, you don't have to prove your merit. I can just bring you down.
Yeah, I don't have to go form my circle.
Right.
I don't have to go do it. Like, I can just hate on your shit.
Yeah.
And then it's easy to get people to join in. Like, nothing brings people together like some negativity, man.
Yeah, that's
like,
a fact.
Yeah,
people will just leech
company.
right onto that, man. Like, you know,
the worst.
You want to make some immediate friends, just do some negative shit. And like,
no lie.
Let's hate on Joe Adams for a minute. Whoosh.
People love Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
I know.
They're obsessed with him.
Yeah.
And he did some negative shit.
Horrible.
It's like fucking weird to me.
I don't know what, like, it's so crazy you brought that up. First of all, we're going to start having cameras die soon, so we are going to have to stop.
All right.
But I do want to touch on that real quick. That shit is so confusing to me. I mean, I thought I was like the only person in the world that thought that it's the weirdest shit ever. That there's like really popular, like attractive actresses and actors that play these fucking crazy people who murdered people and fucking ate them. What? I mean,
and these people, and then people are obsessed with that.
That's what I'm saying. Am I in fucking bizarro world?
I mean, look at the following Manson had.
I don't watch that shit.
Like
oh yeah, Charles Manson.
Well, but there's even like him like manipulating the people in his. You're talking about the followers at the time that he. Yeah. That is what I'm talking about. But like going to the Jeffrey Dahmer thing. I'm not trying to sound like a square. It's a movie, whatever. But dude, you're romanticizing the fuck out of this. You can't say you're not.
Yeah.
It has a really cool picture of him on the front, which does look bad. Like if I didn't know anything about it, I'd be like, this is a badass picture. You have a super popular actor who is beloved for a lot of reasons. He's like a good looking guy. Like with the one that Zac Efron was in. Part of that dude's, I can't remember his name, but part of that dude's thing was that he was really attractive and and charming.
I thought we would be done.
And all that shit, which is fine. I get a little bit, but Zac Efron.
Yeah.
You got to use Zac Efron to play a fucking serial killer. I mean, it's weird. Is it? And then what really
is it weird for you to look at the poster of him in your bedroom and then he gets cast in this film?
And what like kind of flipped me off about it?
I don't think so.
What freaked me out about it was whenever I saw that they were like, because of the success of Monster, which is what the Jeffrey Dahmer thing is called. It was like, because of the success of season 1, they've greenlit 2 more seasons.
Well, sure.
So think about them in that meeting. They're like, oh, this went so well. This thing about Jeffrey Dahmer, everybody loves him. Let's make 2 more about more serial killers. I'm like, what? Like,
it goes back to
crazy shit.
You can monetize anything.
But am I the only person that thinks this?
No.
That this is kind of crazy?
No. Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on with that, but I think people too are just, because we have access to so much, man, I think it takes extreme to get people's attention.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's a fact.
We could talk more on that because I was going to bring up King of the Streets.
Dude, I meant to send you something the other day.
I saw Joe Rogan talking about it. We were talking about that months before. I've been following this shit for a while.
That's so funny.
I'll explain it to you.
I thought that's what it was. I was like, no way.
Yeah, but it's getting that recognition. It's so extreme. Like this is basically, it's an underground fighting ring in Sweden they do. And they emailed me about sponsoring it, and I'm going to eventually, but it's blowing up. But it's no rounds, no rules. These are professional fighters meeting up like underground.
Fighting on concrete.
Yeah. I mean, eye gouging. One guy bit piece of a dude's ear off recently. Like fucking, it is all out violence. There's no sportsmanship, and they say that. I mean, it's extreme. It's fucking
Joe Rogan was like, on concrete. He's like, he said, are there knockouts? He's like, oh yeah, there's knockouts all the time. He was like, and they fall onto concrete. And as he was saying that, dude got picked up and fucking body slammed straight down onto the concrete.
But it's drawing that attention. It's more extreme.
And also the more you fucking cage people up, like is happening right now, and you don't let them be who they are, like, men, for example, with the whole toxic masculinity, you don't let them let that out.
It leads to extremes.
It leads to extremes.
Well, yeah, it goes back to like we were talking about women being caregivers. Like, men are hunter-gatherers. We are physical humans. Like, so the more you try to take that away, the more likely we are to do crazy shit.
This is history repeating itself.
Because
for thousands of years,
you don't get to just take that out.
Right.
Like, it is in our DNA.
Yeah.
If you think a man is a social construct, you can.
Yeah.
You can just be like, oh, well, that's not true because that's not even real. And we're just like, bro, I'm sure that the dude's hunting down fucking saber-toothed tigers.
Yeah.
We're like, none of this is fucking real. This is all bullshit.
Well, and I think like with anything, right, there's context, there's extreme. Like, no one is saying like men should just be in the streets
beating the shit out
of each other. I think, and again, that's just so easy to miss the point. Like, but
we need to be capable.
Yeah, I mean, to think you're just gonna pull. Yeah, I mean, it just is what, again, just kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
It's just in there, and we're not connected to the land. And we don't hunt and gather. We're not physical in most situations anymore. So it's like everything that we are in our DNA, we're not doing.
Yeah.
That has to come with some version of consequence.
And not only do people suppress it these days, they demonize it both at the same time. So they say they suppress it, and then also say the reason we're suppressing this is for your own good and for everybody else's good because it's evil.
Yeah. My guys and I, like, that's a big thing. Like, we connect with the land. That's a big part of the spiritual path. But like, we get together, we connect with the land. We beat each other up. We fight. We do violent shit. And it's all controlled, but we also, like, a lot of us are like hunters. Like, we try to like keep those things alive because if people don't, then it's going to disappear.
Yeah.
But from the outside looking in, it is demonized because it's like, what are those dudes doing in the woods, But it is what it is.
And that's one of those things too. When you guys do that, that's not hurting anyone.
It's not.
That's not having any impact on anyone else whatsoever.
Yep. We're just doing our thing.
And then you don't have to be there.
Yeah.
Like, so if you don't want to go do that, you don't.
Yeah. It's that simple.
Like, it is that simple. That's what's crazy with all of it. It is that simple.
Well, we do got to cut this out
Yep.
because cameras are dying and it's a long episode already. But that being said, we got a lot to cover still, Brian. So we need to bring you back here soon.
Yeah, we'll be back.
We're going to bring you back probably like January, something like that. We're going to have Brian back because honestly, that conversation went really well and it didn't really go on track with anything I had planned, but like it was so valuable. So,
yeah, it happens.
Some of the best ones are like that, I'm telling you.
Like I don't even think people really, I mean, they know obviously a lot from you. But we still got to finish up your story a little bit and just cover a lot of shit, man. So I'm stoked to get you back.
Yeah, man, I enjoyed it.
But thank you so much for being here, bro. Like, truly. And y'all got anything to add in before we cut out? I didn't mean to cut it off, but I know, like, we got to.
No, I got it. I mean, it's one of those things we can talk all day.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
No, it's good, dude. I think this type of dialogue. Here's what's not happening is, especially with men, we're not having these conversations outside of this setting.
Yeah.
Like, men just aren't getting together and like having real raw conversation. And I know for me, I'm starving for it.
Yeah. Like,
not church, you know, not over a football game, but like just hanging out, have a drink or not, who cares? But like not bitching about our job, not bitching about our spouse, which I bitch about neither, and not talking about the ball game.
Come to the woods with, dude. We do none of that.
Have a real conversation.
I'm bringing you to the woods, bro.
Joe's always trying to drag people in the fucking woods.
Hey, everything he described is exactly.
Sales pitch when you say I'm taking you to the woods.